today we're going to talk to you about your work, encourage you and enlighten you, and to be better tomorrow than you were yesterday. That's what this is all about. This is what it's about for us too. We're always trying to push ourselves to the next level, and we're always trying to make ourselves better, our company better, so that we can do better things for you, and you, of course, can do great things for all of your customers. So I'm going to start the day with talking about 4 theories. These are theories that I have made up. Collected life experiences, positive and negative, throughout my journey. I want to share them with you. And this is just an opportunity to open your mind and start this day with maybe a different thought process. The first is my trash can theory. I'm from a small town in South Dakota. My father owned one of the last remaining locally owned department stores in the country, Hagerty's Department Store, my last name. And my dad was the president of the company. He was the highest paid on the payroll, but you would never know that about him. He had a real humility about him. He wasn't a preachy dad. He wasn't a showy off kind of a dad. He was the kind of dad that would work silently and by example. When I was a little girl, I loved, at the end of the day, walking around to each of the departments, and he would pull the sales report on the cash registers. Like, I was obviously destined to be a sales director, right? Like, how much money did we make today, Dad, you know? And so I loved doing that. I would walk around with him, and oftentimes when he'd be doing that, he would make comments to the employees like, all right, well, you know, maybe tomorrow we'll have a better day, or this is a fabulous day, way to go. And then oftentimes he would pick up the trash from the department, and he would go to the next department. Now, my dad had over 100 employees. He had a lot of people to take out the trash. But the point was that my dad would do it if he saw that the trash needed to be taken out, he would take it out. And when I was a little girl, the way that he led and his humility that he always had really has formed and shaped my life. When I was running a medical spa, there was this fantastic nurse injector. One of those nurse injectors where she would have a Botox appointment for 15 minutes on her schedule, and the patient would walk out afterwards having had filler, Sculptra, Botox, all this stuff, and like $2,300 ticket when they came in thinking they were going to spend like $300, right? All of you owners out there is like, where is this woman? I want to hire her, right? Well, she was a very awesome person. She was married to an incredibly successful anesthesiologist. She had the most impressive clientele for injectables. And she worked like 3 days a week, and she made over $250,000 a year, working 3 days a week, because she just was the best, right? Well, the first day, I negotiated a contract with her. We got her to work at the medical spa that I ran. And the first day, at the end of the day, I was in the break room organizing the charts for the next day. She came in, and she had went around to all 7 treatment rooms that we had, and she had picked up the trash. And she came into the break room, and she opened the door and she goes, where's the dumpster? And I turned to her, I was shocked. And I just said to her, I love you. I absolutely love you. But you know what? That was really an analogy, and it reminded me of my dad. Like, she was incredibly successful, and she got there by doing the hard work. And I love that. So no matter how high we get on the pay scale, no matter what our titles are, we've got to stay humble and remember that we've got to take out the trash at the end of the day. The next is my hand massage theory. All right, so I was in college, broke as can be, and I was working as a makeup artist. It was one of the 3 jobs that I had in college because I was totally determined to make it on my own and not get any money from my dad along the way. So one of the jobs that I had was a makeup artist. Now, I worked for an Aveda Concept salon, and those of you, there's always people that have worked for Aveda Concept salons, right? A lot of us got our start in the beauty business. They teach you that if you aren't booked with clients, that you're supposed to give hand massages to the clients that walk in the door and to engage and to start up conversation. Well, it was a Saturday. I had 2 clients the entire day, and I was broke. And so there was a woman sitting in the lobby, and I took my hand relief cream and I walked over to her and I said, can I give you a hand massage, in hopes that we would start a conversation and maybe I could get her to do her brows or something. So I gave her the hand massage. We chatted a little bit. I asked her what she did for a living. She said she was a resident. I didn't know what that was. I had no idea. I'm like, oh, she's a doctor in training. I didn't know that. I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. You're a resident. I have no idea what you just said to me. And I said to her, I said, after your hair appointment, if you want to come, and I'll do a complimentary little makeup touch-up. And she said, absolutely. So at the end of her getting her hair done, she came and I gave her a makeup touch-up. She asked me if I would do her brows. Yes, 3 clients now for the day. And that was Dr. Tal Humes. I didn't know it. She ended up being my first boss in this industry. A year later, she got out of residency, and the same month that she got out of residency, she started a medical spa. And she asked me to come and run it for her. I was 22 years old, and I had my first job running a small business. But if I would not have given that hand massage to her, I don't know if I'd be standing here today. And what this is about is opportunities and putting yourself out there. You never know where your opportunities lie. How many of you came today thinking that you would meet somebody new or talk to somebody new or network? How many of you had that in mind? I love that. Really? That's great. That's actually more people than I thought. Well, that's exactly what these types of things are about. They're about uplifting yourselves, meeting other people, having a sense of community. These are all things that are really important to us. So if I wouldn't have given Dr. Tal Humes a hand massage, my life would have taken a totally different path. And I put myself out there. So that's my hand massage theory. You never know where your opportunities lie. You never know who you're going to meet. But if you don't put yourself out there, then where are you going to be? Exactly where you are today. And I know that I always want to grow. I always want to expand. And I always want to be the best version of myself. But if you don't put yourself out there, you won't get there. The third is no limits, but hard work. Quite honestly, we could have an entire seminar just on this slide alone. So 3.5 years ago, I went through a terribly difficult time in my life where I went through a divorce. But as many of you know, sometimes when you go through the most difficult things in your life, they end up being the absolute best thing for you. So when I went through that really terrible time, you know, for me, I became an observer of my own life. I wasn't a participant anymore when I was going through that hard time. And what I learned through that time is I wasn't happy, and I had created all of these limitations in my life that I did not need. And they were all made up. And I was limiting myself from who I really could be. And during that time, one thing that I realized when I realized that all of these limitations in my life, that I wasn't happy, I wasn't getting what I wanted, and when I met my fiance and we really got to know each other, what he taught me, which is the most important thing that anybody's ever taught me, is that I have no limits. None of us have limits. But inevitably, people put limitations on themselves. We all do this. Being in the position of management, I see this all the time with my employees, where they come up with all of these excuses to why they can't necessarily get to the goal, or why they can't open the partner, or why they can't do this or that. And it's all made up. I always say to people, the hardest part about your job will always be yourself. It will always be yourself. Because we're in a thriving industry, we have amazing products, we have great territories, and if you're not experiencing the success that you know you can have, or that you want, or that me as your sales director put out for you, you're creating boundaries and limitations for yourself. And I see this all the time with people. And I didn't think that I was somebody that did that. I really didn't. But once I went through that hard time in my life, like I said, I started to examine myself. I became an observer of my own life versus a participant, which is really interesting. And you've got to be in a dynamic situation and put yourself there. But what I'm trying to get to is that if we lift off these made-up limitations for ourselves, and we start envisioning the life that we really, really want, we can get there. But inevitably, there's a whole bunch of hard work. And that's what people get scared of a lot of the time, is the hard work. The emotional hard work, the spiritual hard work, the physical hard work, the professional hard work. Because if you want to be the very best version of yourself, you've got to work really hard for it. So you all have pieces of paper in front of you. Now, use them today. Write down things, think of things, inspire. Maybe you'll find some inspiration today. Maybe you'll think about things that you want to change about yourself. You know where you are today, but maybe you're not being honest with yourself about it. Are you exactly where you want to be? Or where is it that you want to go? And set those goals. You know, if you write something down, it becomes so much more real, and the power that it actually has does increase. Because if it's just a thought in your head and you don't write it down, you can't actualize it. And I promise you, tomorrow you're going to be thinking, oh, what was that thing that Brian said that was so amazing? Or what was that thing that Thomas said that I needed to remember about that product? So we got to write things down. So please utilize your paper today, and then make your plans and start mapping out how it is that you want your life to be. But inevitably, If you lift up your limitations and you set your goals, you have to be ready for the hard work to get there. The fourth theory is the cigar butt theory. Now, this is not my theory. This is a borrowed theory from Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is the third wealthiest man in America, and he's totally self-made. I find so much inspiration from people like him, people that literally have done amazing things that are unfathomable. I love people like that. I'm always inspired by that. So Warren Buffett made his fortune by buying up companies when they were depleted, almost completely depleted, but yet they had one little piece of good still left in them. So what he termed this is the cigar butt theory. Now, I don't smoke cigars, I never have, but what I understand is that when you're smoking a cigar, there's one last pull of the cigar before it just becomes the butt. So that's what he waits around for. He waits till these companies are depleted, their stock is devalued, they still are good companies, they have something good to give, but for whatever reasons, they've been depleted, and he buys them. And he's made over $88 billion doing this through Berkshire Hathaway, his holding company. As consumers in America, we can't go out every day without buying something that Warren Buffett owns, either all of or a piece of. And he does this by waiting for the right moment. And what this theory is about is timing. You know, we might have our agendas, our goals, our ideas of success, but we are only one little piece of this huge cosmic world. And what we want right now doesn't always happen. This was a little bit harder for me in my 20s than it is now to my 30s. I'm starting to understand this. When I was a little girl, I used to tell my parents I wanted to be the president and Miss America at the same time. I was like, this makes a lot of sense. Has anybody even thought of this? Like, I'm sure you can do a lot of the same things, you know? But because I wanted to do everything now, today, right now. And I realized that that's not really what life is about, professionally and personally. Sometimes timing comes into it. So you've got to take the trash out. You've got to give hand massages and put yourself out there. You've got to realize the limitations you're giving yourself, lift them, and do the hard work to get to your version of success. But all those things combined, you also have to wait for the time to be right. And that's what we all are a part of that. So those are my four theories. All right, so now that I've bared my soul to you, let's talk about creating a healthy practice. It doesn't matter whether you're a single provider or you have 50 people in the medical spa. These concepts resonate and are important for everybody. So I say creating because that's the reality. If you want health, you have to create it for ourselves, our bodies, our minds, our hearts, our businesses. If we want something to be healthy, we have to create it. And we have to set up a plan in order to do that. And healthy, I didn't say a successful, because sometimes success isn't always healthy, you know? We want a healthy organization, a healthy practice. So we're going to talk about that. The first thing is it starts with you, the individuals. You know, we all have there's all these sayings like, you know, you're only as strong as your weakest link. You know, but at the end of the day, it really comes to the individuals. And that has to start with you, yourself, personally and professionally, and your health. So what is health for you? Health is like different for everybody. When I say healthy to you, what do you first think of? Your mind, your body. So what does that mean? Your body, like running every day or doing yoga, eating right? That's not always easy, right? Your spirit, your emotion, your spiritual and your emotional well-being. It's different for everybody though. And I just encourage you to define your own version of what healthy is. Don't feel all this pressure with health professionals telling you what healthy is necessarily. Because we all know we need to exercise, we need to eat right, you know, we need to get adequate sleep or whatever. But the reality is that health might look very differently to you than it does to me. So what is it that makes you feel really healthy? And be committed to those things. So this here is a list from the Mayo Clinic of the habits of highly healthy people. And I bring this list up. You know, you can Google what makes somebody healthy, and there's a billion different opinions, right? But I really liked this list because it addressed a whole person a little bit more than just all of this like strict diet and exercise stuff that's very difficult in our day and age to adhere to. So first is physical activity. You gotta, move it or lose it, right? Forgiveness. I love that this is on here. Forgiveness. Easier said than done. And it takes practice, and sometimes forgiveness is a process. But I loved that this made the list, because I know people that hold grudges and they don't have healthy or happy lives. So forgiveness, portion size, I like this. So I can still eat my French fries, okay, but I just need to eat less of them. I can still have my chocolate, but just less. I like portion size, because we have to treat ourselves a little bit. I mean, that's one of the best things about being a mom is like there's always candy in the house now. It's so much fun. I didn't eat candy for like 10 years, and now I eat it almost every day because I have kids. Preventative healthcare testing. This is something I need to get better at, but this is really important. And insurance companies are making it harder for us, but if you make this a priority, this is really important. Adequate sleep. I know, that's like the struggle is real, people. So I have a tip for you. Melatonin gummies. Who has tried them? Yes. Oh, they're the best. Okay, so adequate sleep. Prioritizing enough sleep. About 80% of us said we are not getting enough sleep. That's not good. So we got to make that a priority. Trying something new. I love that. And it makes you feel young. It's exciting. And this is like a conscious effort. We have to like put ourselves out there this way. It's not just something new isn't just gonna fall on our lap. So write that down, like try something new. It makes you feel alive. It exposes you to something new, maybe a new person or place. You learn something. It's a great exercise. Strength and flexibility goes similarly to physical activity. Laughter is the best medicine, absolutely. Family and friends, connection is so important to health and longevity. They say that if you have long-term relationships as you get older, your memory is better because they remind you of your youth, or your childhood or earlier years in your life. It's really important to have long and healthy relationships. Address addictive behaviors. I like that it says we have to address them. They're still going to be there. I mean, let's just be honest. We all are addicted to something. Many of us are addicted to our cell phones. We might be addicted to coffee. You might be addicted to exercise. But address it, and like, is this really working for me or is this not working for me? Like, is this a bad thing that's hurting my health? Because the reality is we're probably all addicted to something. But address it and assess if this is healthy or not. Quiet your mind and give gratitude. These are really important things. We are all so, so lucky, and we're all so fortunate. And days like today, when we see what people are going through in Houston and Corpus Christi, like we really have to be thankful, and be thoughtful and sending our prayers to the people that are having a really hard time. So we have to give gratitude. All right, so setting the tone. I love this image because I love color. And you can be whatever color you want. That's the reality. There is no you. There's no replication of you. You are your own person. So what is it that you want people to think of when they see you? When they hear your name, what do you want them to think of? You have to work at these things, though. It doesn't just happen. So my point with this is setting the tone for your practice, too. What is it that you want to be known for? What is it that you want the people within the practice to be doing? What is it that you as an individual wants? One thing that Brian and Alec just touched on is like-mindedness. That's one of the most important things when hiring, is you have to find people that have a similar thought process to you about things. They address things in a similar way, or they have, a passion like you do. But setting the tone, we all are individuals, and we have to embrace that. None of us are replications of another. So we have to embrace the individuality, and we have to work on our reputation and what it is that people think of us, and we have to set the tone. But the great thing about this is that we can be whoever we want to be. Oftentimes people are totally married to the idea of what they think they are, but they're not that. They made it up. You can become whatever it is that you want. That's a powerful thing, and we all have that control. So think about, what is it that you want people to think of when they hear your name? What is it that you want your clients, your friends, your family, when they see you, that's important. And what is it that you want to be for yourself? And it's totally your decision. It's not what your parents told you to be. It's not what your boss told you to be. Is that what your husband or wife told you to be? You can be your own person. The no gossip policy. I enforced this when I was running a medical spa because I saw that negative talk was really killing our morale. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? It's so true. I say to my sales team, okay, you have 100 tokens in a day, 100 tokens, and every single token represents energy. So how are you going to spend your 100 tokens today? Like, are you going to spend it on negative talk? Not feeling good about yourself, talking negatively about somebody or a situation, or are you going to spend that token, because you've only got 100 a day, on something that's positive? And when I instituted this no gossip policy in the practice, it lifted everything. It's like everybody was relieved, right? So you can't talk negatively about the people around you. And if there is a real concern, come to management and we'll deal with it from a business perspective. But by lifting ourselves of taking the time to speak negatively, it puts us more in a positive thought process, right? So think about that throughout the day. I mean, it's hard. It is hard. It's hard for me. This is something I try and practice. Like every single day, like life is hard, right? The struggles of work and family and your employees, all of these things that we all have to manage, paying the mortgage, getting your car work done, everything that we all have to deal with. But if you're investing yourself in positive thoughts and positive conversations, your life will be positive. You have to work at it. And if you surround yourself with negativity, negative thoughts, negative talking, then there's where your energy is going to be. So this is something that I really encourage and practice on myself. A supportive environment. How many of you have recently, yesterday was Sunday, so maybe most of you didn't work, but the last time you were at work, you did something really kind for a colleague because they maybe needed help or you just thought of them. We've got to have a supportive environment. Your colleagues in the weeds because they are backed up with clients and somebody ran late and they need help changing their linens. So change their linens for them. It doesn't matter that it's not your client. Help somebody out and provide that supportive environment. This sometimes can even be hard. Let's say you have a colleague, let's say they've been really bad to you, they've sabotaged you in a way, or they've talked negatively, or they stole your client, the struggle is real. Ugh. Do something nice for them. That might change the course of your relationship. Be the bigger person. Support each other. A supportive environment, if everybody's supporting each other and having each other's back, then you guys can create amazing things together. So a supportive environment. But this starts at the top. You owners and managers out there, this has to start with you, creating a supportive environment, where you encourage your employees to get along, interact, troubleshoot things together. We've all got to do this together, a supportive environment. Team meetings. I love a good team meeting. This was one of my favorite things when I was in a practice, is we would just come up with a concept, okay? Let's say it was social media, for instance. Okay, next week's meeting is going to be about social media. I want everybody to bring 3 ideas on how they think we should run our social media. And everybody comes to the table with an idea. You never know where the good idea is going to come from. It might be the part-time receptionist that works 10 hours a week because she's in college. She might have the best idea in the meeting. Don't limit yourself to just the owners or the managers having the good meetings. So idea sharing. This is important because it creates a sense of unity, contribution, and then people become more invested in the game plan. And so a lot of times with team meetings, give them topics and then they come to the table with it. We have a call every single Monday for the sales team, and it is the highlight of my week. And the more people exchange and share on it, the better the call is every time. When I get text messages or quick emails from the sales team, that was a great call, thank you so much. It's always when other people are contributing and we're all working on something together. So create positive team meetings, because the reality is there's always going to be something you need to improve upon, but look at it as an opportunity. So let's say, for instance, your retention is really low. You've done some reports, your retention is low, it's not as high as you need to, your profits aren't doing as well. So that's a problem, right? Or is it an opportunity? Our retention is hurting, it's hurting sales. So we need to have a meeting so we can talk about how we can increase our retention. So instead of having a negative conversation where it's okay, your retention is bad and your clients are coming back and it's negative, get together and try and think of positive ways to move things forward. and make sure that everybody is contributing to the team meeting. And usually if you do something like bring 3 things prepared or thought out that you want to share with the team, something like that engages people, because there's always going to be people that raise their hand and then those that don't, right? But we've got to encourage those that are sometimes more quiet. It's not that they don't want to talk. It's not that they don't have a good idea. It's just that they aren't the ones that are going to always raise their hand. So we've got to encourage all personality types to be engaged within the practice. Understanding motivation. So what motivates you every day? Why did you come here today? What's your motivation? I got up today for you. I got up today for my bosses. I got up today because I have 2 beautiful children I need to take care of, and this is my job. So I have lots of things that motivate me every day. I wake up and I'm going to hit the ground running, right? So what motivates you? Knowledge. That is always the first thing that is said every single time. You know that? Isn't that interesting? Knowledge. People always want education. They want to learn something. That's something it's a really awesome thing about people today. And I think this has a lot to do with the internet. People want to learn more and more because we can learn something by just clicking something. My son, we have that Siri thing, Alexa, and you talk to it like, what is the largest shark in the world? My son just will sit there for hours, and talk to the machine, and then it says things to him because he wants to learn, right? We have that in us. Like that's from when we were little, and it doesn't ever stop. But what is your motivation? Now think about what your motivation is every single day. Define it, encourage it, feed it. But then think about what your colleague's motivation is too. Let's not be selfish here. Because if you start understanding the person's next to you motivation, you will have a lot more understanding of them. You might understand, why are they always doing it like that? But if you understand what's motivating them to do it like that, you might understand them a little bit better. And then all of a sudden it's not annoying to you that they do it that way. Because now you understand why they do it that way. So that's also part of it. None of us are an island. We're all here on Earth together. And so the more we understand each other, the better off we'll be. And with that comes empathy. How many of you guys have seen the most amazing documentary, The Defiant Ones, about Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine? Only couple. Okay, you guys have to. It's incredible. The Defiant Ones. You will have so much respect for Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, who I didn't even know who he was before. But let me tell you this story. Okay, so Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, they're business partners. They're music producers. We all know who Dr. Dre is because, come on, he's Dr. Dre, right? They sold Beats by Dre to Apple for $3.2 billion. And it was Jimmy Iovine's idea. The story goes, Dr. Dre was on his balcony in Malibu, and Jimmy starts walking up and he goes, hey, Dr. Dre, I want to talk to you about something. He comes up and he goes, sneakers. We need to put your name on sneakers. And Dr. Dre's like, no, that's not happening. And then he goes, headphones, speakers. And he goes, I'll put my name on that. And that birthed Beats by Dre, which sold for $3.2 billion to Apple just a few years ago. So Jimmy got his start being a music producer for all sorts of insane musicians. Bruce Springsteen, the Beatles, John Lennon, Stevie Nicks. They dated for a while too. You'll hear all of the good gossip, right? So anyway, so here's the story. When he was in his early 20s, he was helping to produce an album for Bruce Springsteen, and Bruce Springsteen and the whole crew had been in the recording studio for weeks, long hours, not going home. At one point, they tried to find the right drum beat for 12 hours. And Jimmy Iovine was in his 20s, not understanding timing and patience as much as we all are in our 20s. And he just had it, and he goes to the producer, that's it, I'm quitting. This is insane. I cannot live my life like this. I can't sleep. This is just totally insane. And the producer said to him, Jimmy, it's not about you. It's about Bruce. And that changed his whole life and changed how he thought about producing music for people. It's not about me. It's about the musician. And I loved that. I thought it was so beautiful. It's about other people. It's about empathy. And if we work out of empathy and caring for others and put our own agendas aside, a lot of times we'll be happier, we'll be healthier, we'll be more successful. and we'll be able to contribute more. So lend a helping hand to your colleague, understand where they're coming from. The other thing is we have to be so empathetic to our patients and our clients. Like, they're coming to us because they need help in some way. You know, maybe they're getting older and they're feeling insecure about it. Maybe their husband just left them for a younger woman, which now that's not really the trend anymore. It's more like women going after the younger men, I've noticed. But the point is that our patients and clients come to us because they have a concern in some way. But if we don't operate out of empathy, we can't really help them. Because they might come in and you see all of this sun damage on them, and they don't see any of that. All they see is that their skin is dry. So if we don't address the dryness of their skin, we're not going to make them happy. So it's not about our agenda, it's about their agenda. And it's about operating out of empathy. And empathy always, if you practice empathy all the time, it really helps to enlighten you, and you become more patient, more understanding, less stressed out. Whenever I'm dealing with a stressful situation, it's like, okay, I need to take myself out of this and think about the other person and why is this all really happening? And if I operate out of a place of empathy, I can accomplish a lot more. So be empathetic to others because it will help you. Clear expectations. I'm a black and white kind of gal. Like, you need to tell me what I need to do and I will do it. I will do anything possible to get to what it is that I need to. How many of you, though, have clear expectations between your managers and your bosses and you? You really know what they expect of you. I think sometimes we don't take the time to do this. So how many of you have contracts with your bosses where it lays out what your job expectations are, what your goals are? Because a lot of times we might find disappointments in our managers, or our managers might find disappointment in us, and it's because we don't understand each other and there's not clear expectations. It's not that either one of us aren't capable of getting to where the end goal needs to be, it's that we're not communicating clearly. So writing clear expectations, I like to have those clear expectations laid out for me so I understand them. So I understand what I need to do to be successful and please my bosses. And we have to do this with colleagues, so we understand, okay, it's your job on Tuesdays to take out the trash, it's my job on Wednesday, and now there's not a fight. So if I don't take out the trash on Wednesday, you can get mad at me and report me to the manager, right? Clear expectations. So it's important for us to have those clear expectations. A fresh start. I introduced this concept at our most recent, it's not like like a totally original thing, but it really helped the sales team. We talked about just like, give yourself a break and then you have a fresh start. Because the truth is we all made a bunch of mistakes last week. We all didn't do maybe as well as we would have. Maybe you had the most amazing week last week and you're just like still riding high on it. But life comes with disappointments, shortcomings, us not getting to exactly what it is that we wanted to. But I think a lot of times we beat ourselves up after that, don't we? I do that to myself sometimes. Like, oh, I didn't do exactly what I wanted to, or oh, that recipe didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it to. But you gotta give yourself a break. You know, we all need to give ourselves a break. The sun rises and it goes down. Thank God for that, right? So every single day when the sun rises, it's a way for you to be reborn, have a fresh start, and take on the day in a better way today than you did yesterday. We all have that opportunity, and let's seize the moment and do it. So operate with a fresh start. So thank you very much. You know, the thing about clinical products is they are comprehensive, they're scientific, they're complicated, they have lots of different active ingredients. So what we want to talk about today and now is really just product positioning. If somebody comes in and they have this condition or concern, what is it that I recommend with IsClinical? So let's talk about IsClinical products. So here's what we're going to talk about. Skin conditions: acne, rosacea, post-procedure, hyperpigmentation, aging, and the eye area. So these are oftentimes your most common things that you're addressing within the practice. So when somebody comes in with one of these 6 things or all of these things, how do I recommend IsClinical products to them? Thomas, how do you recommend IsClinical products to them?
Well, I usually recommend it, and what I love about the product training guides, you have that first page there, which are your introductory regimes, and then you also have your advanced regimes. There are many different ways to position products. You can position products through lifestyle, through preference, skin type, but really what it comes down to, you want to make life easy. What are the key products that you must have to treat that particular condition. And then if you need to take it a step further, what are those more advanced options that are in your arsenal? I personally always like to have everything in my arsenal because you never know how your skin is going to react on any given day.
Very good. Let's start with acne. Acne is something I'm so passionate about, and I find this a lot of times people get into this industry because they suffered from acne themselves. So it really inspires you to figure out how to treat your own acne, and through that you find your passion to be in the skincare business. And we hear that all the time. And whenever it's personal to you, it has more importance. So acne is something that affects, Dr. DeHaven actually told me this, is that acne affects everybody at some point in their life. So this is something that we all deal with at some point, sometimes unfortunately more severely than other times. So here we have this picture. So Thomas, when you see this picture, what do you think? What comes to your mind?
Well, my first thing that comes to mind, I really want to help that person because acne, as Molly said in the previous lectures, can be really challenging and also very emotional for that person. So, having that empathetic moment with them and really listening to what they want to achieve and really what is achievable through all the pieces in your arsenal, the modalities or skincare. So my first thing is I want to get them on an introductory regime. I want to just see how their skin reacts to more sophisticated skincare, and that ends up being Cleansing Complex, Active Serum, and HydroCool.
I see a lot of inflammation as well, so ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus is great as well. So here are the regimes. So you talked the basic regime, Cleansing Complex, Active
Serum, and your HydroCool Serum. Cleansing Complex for an acne skin type is great because a lot of times with acne, what do we tend to want to do? Or what does the patient tend to want to do? They want to over cleanse their skin. They want to strip all of that which is actually needed for their skin. And Cleansing Complex does all the resurfacing, all the cleansing, but it's extremely well balanced. Active Serum, as we know, is fantastic for active acne scars, and pore size. HydroCool is just like that, Hydra and Cool. It is a great drink of water for the skin, which is also very cooling.
I love HydroCool. I call HydroCool my 2 o'clock pick-me-up. I just put it on my skin at about 2 o'clock every day to revive it and give it the glowy, dewy look that I love. HydroCool is a drink of water for the skin. And Active is an absolute essential key product if you are dealing with acne. We hear this all the time. The results with acne, the results that Active has on acne is absolutely fantastic. And they're also going to be relieving some hyperpigmentation. They're also going to be addressing some anti-aging concerns if they have aging concerns. The other thing that's really important is Super Serum Advanced Plus and ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus. If somebody comes into the office and they have acne, active acne, your go-to always are going to be what Thomas just said. Get them on the Cleansing Complex, get them on Active Serum, get them on the HydroCool because that will hydrate without causing any additional oil introduction to their skin, and it will hydrate their skin without clogging pores. And then you've also got to address oftentimes the discoloration, which Super Serum Advanced Plus is fantastic for that. And you also oftentimes have to address inflammation because like the photo that we just showed of that acneic patient, lots of inflammation going on. Because acne can be a sebum problem, but if it's cystic, grades 3 and 4, you're also dealing with an inflammation. So this is really important that you are able to attack both of those concerns, both the sebum problem and the inflammation concern. So Active Serum will really help with the breakout, and the ProHeal will help calm the skin. So here is this patient at 90 days and just used Cleansing Complex and Active Serum. These were some photos that came in from a client of ours. That's really uplifting and exciting.
Without having to use any type of prescription or any type of treatment. You can get these types of results just with a really, really fantastic topical.
And that's nice to be able to offer your patients and clients just 2 products and dramatic results. Like I said at the beginning of the day, I'm here today because I tried an Active Serum sample and it totally changed my skin. If you introduce the line with that kind of power and show them, okay, if you just use this Active Serum sample, this is how you use it, this is when to use it in the evening on clean skin, you're going to start seeing a change in the skin, usually within 1 to 3 days, depending on the person. And that gives you credibility because at the end of the day, our clients have to trust us, right? They really do. So if somebody comes in with acne, What are they going to use?
So here is your top pick, your go-to, and we want to make this easy for you. You know, you have a lot of different options. You have the introductory, you also have the advanced, but sometimes what happens, we only have a few minutes to make that really significant recommendation. So acne, top pick, is your active serum. As it says here, not only does it treat active acne, acne scars, and pore size, but it also treats fine lines and wrinkles and hyperpigmentation, or that little bit of pigment irregularities that most of us are suffering from.
So Active Serum is also the hero of hero products for the Is Clinical line, and it really is what has made us so famous. Because acne, hyperpigmentation, or aging is likely one or all three of the concerns that you have on your skin, just like your patients and your clients. Get them on Active Serum in the evening, and it will absolutely change their skin. So let's talk about rosacea. Again, we already talked about this a little bit in the previous, but this is something that's very painful. I look at this photo and I physically can feel like pain for this patient and client. Rosacea is something that once you have it, you always have it. Treatment is sometimes frustrating. We see a lot more rosacea actually regionally, sometimes like on the Northeast we see more rosacea, but rosacea is something that is a really, really big concern for people that have it because it's very painful and it can be very difficult to treat. However, we treat if you have redness in the skin or inflammation in the skin or rosacea, no matter how you're getting that inflammation and that uptick in redness, we really want to recommend the same thing. So even if you don't have rosacea, just if you have inflammation or concern with redness in your skin, ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus is going to be the go-to. So what's the introductory regime if you're dealing with inflammation?
So I was going to go back to cleansing complex. For acne, it's because it has all those great resurfacing agents. For rosacea, we don't want to over resurface the skin, so it's extremely well balanced. It's resurfacing and cleansing, deep cleansing, but it also has really great controlled exfoliation, and it's very well balanced. A little frothy, so they get that kind of foam, they feel like they're doing something, but it's not going to over dry or strip their skin because it's pH balanced to skin at 5.6. You also have here as one of your go-tos is ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus, as Molly said. Again, Pro and Heal. That's kind of the way I have started off with the company, remembering, just think of promote healing, calming and soothing vitamin C. Sandra Adams always told me, if it's scratchy, itchy, red, or inflamed, it's ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus. So if you are looking at someone, their skin, sometimes I'm a little scratchy, itchy, red, and inflamed, your skin is looking that way, ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus is your go-to. Or if you've induced that quality on the surface of skin, ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus is your go-to. Hydra Cool Serum, of course, again, because of the wonderful Hydra and cool qualities, that's hydration and cooling. And Extreme Protect SPF 30. We definitely want to protect that skin, but at the same time, we want to nourish it. And Extreme Protect SPF 30 has a lot of great attributes. It's a moisturizer, it's anti-aging, and it's an SPF.
You know, though, sunscreen is oftentimes underutilized, not applied correctly.
We don't usually reapply as we tell and discuss and recommend our clients to do, to reapply their sunscreen. And again, the Extreme Protect SPF 30, you're putting yourself or the skin in a rosacea quality is kind of extreme. The skin is uber inflamed, so it has an ability to calm and soothe and again, moisturize that more irritated, more easily irritated skin.
What I love about Extreme Protect SPF 30 is the way that you talk to your customers and patients about it, because it is like a one-stop shop. It's moisturizing, it's antioxidant rich, it's DNA repairing and prevention, and it has like the added bonus of the SPF. So if you see that, if you have that patient come in and they say, I don't like to use it, I don't like a lot of steps, the minimalist, right? If somebody walks into the practice and they don't want a lot of steps, you want to go to a couple products right off the bat. Cleansing Complex and Extreme Protect SPF 30, because they'll cleanse their skin well, and then they will have hydration, antioxidants, and an SPF. Just those two products are awesome. And then hopefully you can get them on the active serum in the evening as well, because it's going to treat the anti-aging concerns, the acne concerns. That's like my favorite basic regime. But as it pertains to rosacea or redness, it is really good to use that Extreme Protect SPF 30 as a treatment product, because it will help reduce erythema in the skin and redness in the skin. So you don't have to have rosacea to get great benefits for the anti-inflammatory benefits of all of these products. So here are some before and afters after 14 days with this patient on rosacea. Really, really impressive. One thing that we hear all the time when we're traveling is that people, I've tried every topical, every oral, I've been fighting my rosacea for a decade, I've never had total relief, and then I got on the ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus, and they see an amazing result.
What I like about this was the AM and PM. So using that same regime, the two products, both AM and PM, ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus and HydroCool Serum, I always like to find out, like take care of the inflammation, then find out what's underneath the hood. You know, because there could be something else underlying, but first we need to take care of that inflammation. And again, here is your inflammation or rosacea top pick, and that is ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus. If you're going to recommend one product for someone that's suffering from rosacea, there it is. Quick, simple, and easy. As I said before, it's scratchy, itchy, red, and inflamed, but it says here, red, inflamed, rosacea. Also, great for cystic acne. Those grades 3 and 4, that inflammation that's associated. You can get rid of the acne, but then you still have this kind of red and rosy surrounding area. So ProHeal will go in and basically calm and soothe that surrounding tissue. Post-procedure, it's phenomenal for post-procedure. And as it says here, dry skin. People that have a dry skin type typically like something a little bit more emollient.
Now, one thing that's interesting to point out is that we started with acne, now we're with rosacea, two totally different skin types. But you see we're using the same cleanser. Cleansing complex. Okay, so one tip to take away, every single person that walks in your door is a phenomenal candidate for cleansing complex. Just like, let that just be your easy go-to. Every single person needs to be on cleansing complex. They will love it. It is a cleanser, it is a toner, and it is an eye makeup remover. But it really is great for every single person that walks in the door. And everybody that walks in your door should be on a good cleanser. Right? That's just the beginning of great skin, is have a great cleanser, a great sunscreen, and then we can get to their treatment products after we've got that. So here's post-procedure. Oftentimes we have to have some downtime or procedures in order to get the results. You know, it's kind of like our workout. Like we've got to tear down the muscle before we can build back up strong. Now, whether you are dealing with post-procedure through surgery, post-procedure through chemical peels, post-procedure through laser treatments, we're going to really recommend a very similar post-care, which is nice. And inevitably, you guys are all, whether you want to admit it or not, you're causing damage to your patient's skin. But we want to be able to help them with that. You know, I remember when Brian was telling me about Shield, what I said to him when I was running a practice, the most difficult thing was patient satisfaction during aggressive downtime procedures. They were very happy with the result after, but it was oftentimes that like 7 to 10 days that was very difficult for them. That was very difficult for us too. You know, they were like slathering on all of the petroleum-based product. You know, they'd get milia, they would be unhappy, and even though they've got great results, they're like, yeah, not doing that again. Right? You guys know what I'm talking about? And so we really wanted to introduce a product that could help your patients with that post-procedure without that downtime to increase the patient satisfaction. And at the end of the day, if we do not have patient satisfaction, we're out of business, right? That's the truth. So that's why this product is so important. So if you have a post-procedure, whether it's, again, chemical peel, laser treatment, surgery, this is going to be your go-to regime.
So again, we're using Cleansing Complex, which, as Molly said, I love it. Everyone can use Cleansing Complex, whether it be the dry, the normal. One thing wonderful about Cleansing Complex is that even for an ablative situation, the skin is uber compromised because of the pH, because it is so well balanced and so well formulated with extremely fantastic and high quality ingredients. You can use it post-ablation. Then you have Shield, which might be the top pick in the next one, but it is the kind of the cornerstone of this particular regime. Think of the words shield with an emphasis on heal. You're healing the skin. As Molly said, it's not the treatment which people typically don't like. It's all the goop, the Vaseline, the long downtime. Shield has ingredients that not only create that wonderful protective layer, but also nourish the skin so that healing time and the compliancy is one, healing time is improved and compliancy is on the rise. You also have two options when it comes to vitamin C's or L-ascorbic acid in this regime. One is the ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus. What we want to do is we want to reduce the amount of excessive inflammation that's occurred. You still need inflammation for the healing process, but it's the over amount of inflammation that's the negative, that turns that situation into something not good. So ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus, once you've gone through that initial stage of inflammation, you can then start applying Super Serum Advanced Plus to encourage that collagen production and really overall nourish the skin as well.
How many of you guys retail our post-procedure kit? It's a really nice kit. It's just turnkey. It's a very affordable price. So it's easy for you to either bundle in with your laser treatments or your chemical peel packages, but also it's very obtainable for the customer. And what's nice about it is they get their cleansing complex, they get their shield, then they also get samples of ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus and the HydroCool. So they get a little taste of all of the other good stuff. So with $99, you can introduce 5 products because it also has the Eclipse in it as well, the sunscreen. So if you don't have post-procedure and you're doing procedures with downtime, I encourage you to look at that as an option to offer into your practice because it really is a nice thing. And compliance is key. That's key, right? So here's a true story here. This was a Mohs surgery patient. And what's really upsetting about this particular is that you can see that the Mohs surgeon had to go into her vermilion border. You see that on her lip? So they were hoping that they didn't have to, but then there was still traces of the cancer, so they had to go into her lip. I mean, this is traumatic stuff for somebody. Right here, that large of Mohs surgery. Well, this is the thing that's so cool about this story, that this patient went against her doctor's recommendations for post-procedure, and she started using the IS Clinical regime for post-procedure and ignored her doctor's recommendations of the post-procedure, which was don't do anything except for a petroleum-based product for the first 5 days. She didn't listen. What she did is she did the IS Clinical post-procedure. So let me tell you exactly what regime she had here, because it's really amazing. So when you first have a treatment like this, where you've had a surgery and there's sutures, we recommend to just use the cleansing complex and shield until the sutures are removed. We don't want to get into the treatment. We just want to protect it. We want to make sure it's clean, but please err on the side of being conservative here, because the last thing we want to do is push our patients too much. We really want to make sure that they have the absolute best downtime. So then once the sutures were removed at day 3, she began using ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus. Her skin was able to tolerate it. And the reason why she started using the ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus coupled with the cleansing complex and the shield is because she wanted to reduce that inflammation. So again, remember, as we've learned today, ProHeal Serum, if there's inflammation of any sort, that's where we're going to go to, is ProHeal, whether it's rosacea, whether it's cystic acne, whether it's induced by a procedure, ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus will reduce that inflammation. Then, once the inflammation started to lessen after the first week, she started using Super Serum Advanced Plus. Because with the Super Serum Advanced Plus, it has that copper tripeptide growth factor in it, so it's going to build the collagen. It also has phenomenal brightening ingredients in it to help with the discoloration from the scar. You see there, that 5th photo, that's 15 days post-procedure. 15 days. And the final photo is 22 days post-procedure. And her surgeon, who, again, advised her not to go on the IS Clinical regime, afterwards said that it was the most phenomenal healing she had ever seen in her career. And she said that a result like this in 22 days is what she looks for in a good scenario 3 or 4 months post-op. I know. So the point is now she recommends IS Clinical to all of her patients, right? Sometimes the patients teach the doctors, right? It's not always about the doctors teaching us. Sometimes we have something that teaches the doctors as well. So this is a happy person because now you can see she has little to no scarring. And I actually know this person, and you cannot tell that she had had anything at all. And this is, again, a surgery that went through her vermilion border. So it's a success story, to say the least. Here is another very traumatic and also very telling before and after for Shield. This is a 2-year-old who had a pot of coffee spilled on him. I know. All the parents in the room just like lost it a little bit, right? I know. This is 30 days after using Shield. Again, the doctor could not believe the results. So
this is life-changing.
Life-changing, absolutely.
Even though this poor little one didn't even know his life had, been changed by the coffee, but the results are life-changing.
Well, this is really great, and this is what we can do for our patients just with topical skincare. It's awesome. So, post-procedure, Shield, right?
So there's your top pick. Shield Recovery Balm, great for compromised skin, including that raw skin from ablation, tight or distressed skin. I also encourage when people are traveling to other environments, or if you live in a more colder environment, especially our international distributors, Shield is great as a very unctuous balm, almost as a great, very, very moisturizing, hydrating balm. Especially if your lifestyle, you tend to go out and you ski and you're putting yourself in an environment which is almost like having the skin ablated. Shield Recovery Balm is great for that. And of course, just basic dry skin.
Use this in more creative ways. It's not just for post-procedure. Like Thomas just said, if you're gonna be in the elements, like you're going skiing, or maybe you have a windburn or something, use Shield for that. Also, if you have really dry skin, I love Shield as a really unctuous.
Love the word unctuous.
Yes, unctuous moisturizer. I also love it on my cuticles and the heels of my feet, also your elbows. Getting dry. How many of you get dry elbows? Shield is incredible for it.
Okay, I'll admit it. No one else will.
I suffer from dry elbows. Not anymore with Shield. So get creative with Shield. It's not just for post-procedure. So now let's talk about hyperpigmentation. How many of you really suffer from like melasma or severe pigmentation? It's difficult, isn't it? It is just can be a real beast. We would have people come into the practice. When I was running my practice, it was in Denver, Colorado, which is a super high altitude. People's skin is terrible there because of the environment. Super high elevation, incredibly dry, and people love to be outside in Colorado. Very outdoorsy, very active lifestyle. Their skin paid the price. They were usually like quite fit, but their skin would look really quite old and damaged because of the environment that they were constantly being put in. And they would come into our practice, and I'm sure you can all relate to this. They wanted 100% improvement with one treatment for $100. We're like, what? Hello? And I would say, it took you decades to build this damage. It's not going away overnight. So that's the first thing, is that we need to be honest and explain to our patients the process of hyperpigmentation, whether it is somebody like me who's just fair, I freckle easily, I don't really have a huge pigmentation problem, but I definitely don't want my freckles to be so pronounced as I get older that it ages me, as we know pigmentation can. Or if you're dealing with a lot of melasma, which is very difficult. We want to be able to treat hyperpigmentation, either it's the concern or it's the condition, really well. And the thing that's great is that we can do this safely. This is a big deal. When I first got into skincare, we were treating hyperpigmentation very well, but not safely. And that was a problem. And now we can with White Lightning.
So it's a very easy regime. Of course, you start off with Cleansing Complex. Great, because it's, again, great for all skin types. Your go-to for during the day is going to be White Lightning Complex. I love White Lightning Complex because, yes, it is pigmentary forward, but there's so many additional benefits. What most people will find is that they see an improvement in pore size, so reducing pore size. They see an improvement in their skin texture. They also see an improvement because a lot of times inflammation and hyperpigmentation is a combo plate. Do you guys see that a lot, where you're having both of those situations happening at the same time? So White Lightning Complex has an ability to actually reduce inflammation while it's taking care of the hyperpigmentation. And then your nighttime version of that is going to be White Lightning Serum. You have an additional options of adding Pro Heal Serum Advanced Plus for an additional layer of anti-inflammatory benefits. And then, of course, you can alternate with Active Serum.
So let's talk about that. One of my favorite regime is White Lightning Complex during the day, Active Serum in the evening. So one thing that's really important to notice about these regimes is there's a lot of flexibility. Even though we have tried and true regimes that we can recommend to you, you have some flexibility, and this is a perfect example of that. White Lightning Complex during the day, Active Serum in the evening. If somebody has pigmentation concerns anti-aging concerns, and also acne concerns. That's an awesome regime for them. Now, if somebody comes into the practice and they are totally focused on treating their hyperpigmentation, and as well, if they're a little bit drier, then I recommend the White Lightning Serum, because White Lightning Serum is incredibly hydrating because of the lactic acid, I find. But it's also nice to alternate. Remember, your skin has a metabolism just like your body. We got to mix it up a little bit. Yes?
I get the Extreme Protect.
Yes.
And then I put a bunch of the White Lightning Serum in it, and I use it as my night.
I don't know if you guys all heard, but what she said is that she uses the Extreme Protect SPF 30, and then she puts White Lightning Serum in it, and she applies that in the evening for her nighttime moisturizer, because it's very hydrating, the White Lightning Serum. Well, this is a new one. I've got to try it, and then I'll be able to speak to it more personally, but Dr. DeHaven actually uses Extreme Protect SPF 30 as her nighttime moisturizer as well. So just because it has a sunscreen doesn't mean that you can't use it as a moisturizer. Yes?
My question is, for both the White Lightning Complex and Serum, if you had a client that had to choose between either AM or PM, what
Yes.
would that be?
All right, so her question is if a patient comes in, they can only purchase one of the White Lightning products, which one would you recommend? And I would recommend White Lightning Complex. I'll tell you why. White Lightning Complex and Serum are both absolutely phenomenal, okay? So you can't make a mistake. Let me just tell you that. You can't. However, the White Lightning Complex I would go to first because it has additional benefits of more antioxidant protection, and also it's more moisturizing for the skin. So White Lightning Complex is moisturizing, it's exfoliating, it's anti-aging, it treats existing pigmentation, and it will help to prevent future. All 5 with that one. So I would go to the White Lightning Complex because of that. And oftentimes when people are dealing with a pigmentation concern, there's usually a certain level of dryness as well, because they might be a little bit.
What if the pigmentation is related to melasma or hormonal and they're like combinations?
Then their go-to would be active serum. So the question is if it's more combination skin, hormonal acne, and they're dealing with melasma, maybe because of a pregnancy or a recent pregnancy, active serum in the evening, and then White Lightning Complex during the day would be a phenomenal regime for them. Now, let's say they come in and they buy the White Lightning Complex from you because hyperpigmentation is their main concern, and they're not ready to buy a second product. That's when you utilize the samples that we provide you. Every single order that you place at this clinical, you receive the 5% in the samples. Do not give those away like they're candy. Give them away like they are gold, because that's what it is. It's liquid gold. So make sure you give that sample to somebody that is engaged, that will likely purchase, because they'll see the result, they'll come back and buy the product. You've got to put a lot of energy and attention and detail into sampling well, because samples are just like, they'll go into the trash can at home if you don't give them a lot of value and really talk to your patients about the regimes and follow up on giving away your samples.
I like to do a sample as almost like a reward, and I create the right behavior. So as Molly said, they purchase one White Lightning Complex, and you know what? I want you to have the complete regime. I know today that you're not able to do everything that I've recommended, but I want you to have everything possible to get the best results. So if you'll do me a favor and take the leap of faith and purchase White Lightning Complex, I'm going to give you your evening complement active serum, and I bet you $50 you're going to be back in 2 weeks.
You're going to give her $50?
Well, I mean,
This is an expensive sale.
I didn't make any money on that,
Yeah.
okay? But it's about creating the right behaviors, and you're creating people's consistency by using skincare, and they have everything that they need to get the best results. And as we know, if someone gets the best results, they're going to be more apt to come back and see you and make that purchase.
So we have an Advanced Plus here, and we have the Active Serum. So let me explain a little bit more why I have all of these things here. Because sometimes people come in and they have different concerns, like we've just addressed. They have pigmentation concerns, they have breakout concerns. So you want to be able to have a little flexibility of maybe alternating the Active Serum and the White Lightning Serum. Disclaimer, do not use both White Lightning Serum and Active Serum together at the same time. The one thing that you want to be careful about is using too many exfoliating products in the evening or during the day, because we don't want to cause that much stress to the skin. We don't want to induce essentially a chemical peel necessarily. There is such thing as too much of a good thing, right? So we want to make sure that we are recommending the regime so that they don't get a negative reaction, because if they get a negative reaction, it's actually worse than getting a good reaction. This is a fact. If somebody has a positive experience, They may be talking to 3 people about that positive experience. But if somebody has a negative experience, they talk to, guess how many people about it? 10. 10. So like, this is our reputation. So we want to err on the side of caution, make sure you follow up. And oftentimes people, even though they might have a question or they're unclear on how to use a product or they're a little confused, a lot of times they don't initiate the communication to you. So we've got to take that responsibility as service providers to be reaching out to them. Ask them, what's the best way for me to contact you? Is it via text message, email, phone? Like, how is the best way for me to reach out to you? And then follow up to them in their desired method. As far as having the Advanced Plus on this slide, I'm, as Sandra always calls me, a power user. So I want lots. I don't really think of myself as a power user, but that's what she calls me. And
You are.
I am, okay. Well, I always do my cleansing complex in the morning, and then I use my Advanced Plus, whether it's Super Serum or Pro Heal. I love them both for different reasons, and I alternate Super Serum Advanced Plus, Pro Heal Serum Advanced Plus. I put my White Lightning Complex on after, and then my EP30. And my skin looks great after that, and it's not too much. Then in the evening, I usually stick to my Active Serum and my HydroQool. So it's fun to kind of mix and match. The other thing is that even if somebody is on another skincare regime, Is Clinical plays well with others. And that's a really nice thing, because let's say your patient, they say, I have my cleanser, I love it, it's good. Okay, fine. You know, you're happy with your cleanser, that's good. I really wanted you to try Active Serum because it'd be great for your skin. And ease somebody into introducing multiple products to them. So here is a before and after 90 days. Now, what's important about this is no downtime, no inflammation, no peeling, flaking. This is just positive results. And like I said, when I first got in this industry, we couldn't do this. We could not provide great results with hyperpigmentation without downtime. We really couldn't. And that's what's so great about technology and new formulations and advancements, is that we can continue to move forward. So White Lightning, how many are using it now?
Well, I use it, and
Okay.
actually for the opposite reason, because I don't suffer from hyperpigmentation, I suffer from hypopigmentation. So all those benefits that Molly was discussing, anti-inflammatory, nourishing, the exfoliation, actually for me, it helps to soften the lines of demarcation so you don't see the fact that I have that actual pretty severe skin condition.
All right, so White Lightning.
So your top pick, of course, is White Lightning Complex. Again, for all the same reasons that we discussed, the hyperpigmentation, controlled exfoliation, fine lines and wrinkles is like that secondary benefit. You know, every Is Clinical product has like that A job, and then they're very busy. They drive Uber on the weekend, and they have a part-time job. I'm not sure if you guys noticed that everyone has a full-time job and then drives Uber on the weekend. So you
Maybe
have
in
that-
San Diego.
It may
That's
stay in
a
San Diego.
thing.
So it has the secondary job of fine lines and wrinkles, age spots, and hydroquinone-free. So this is a non-prescription results that you're seeing in that slide before.
You know, that really helped me when I was learning the Is Clinical line, is that when somebody comes in, when I was introducing the Is Clinical products to somebody, I'd always focus on what is the main concern. I'd address that first, knowing that I was going to help with all of these other things when you introduce Is Clinical products, because they are inevitably incredibly multitasking. So hyperpigmentation is your concern, okay, get you some White Lightning Complex, but with that you're also going to see more hydrated skin, you're going to have a phenomenal antioxidant, you also are going to see a reduction in pore size, relief in fine lines and wrinkles, all by addressing the pigmentation. So it's really nice and a huge benefit to your patients. So here's the sad news, we're all aging
Yes,
at the same rate. Ooh. No, actually, some people less. Oh, we're going to talk about that more later.
That's another topic coming up later.
That's another conversation.
But we are all aging.
That's bad news.
Yeah.
Okay, so somebody comes in and they say, anti-aging is my main concern. Aging is my main concern. I want to look better at 60 than my mom did. I am feeling like I'm starting to look like my mom, or whatever the case may be. All of the Is Clinical products are phenomenally anti-aging, even if you're not necessarily thinking that at the beginning, like the White Lightning Complex, incredibly anti-aging. So here are some go-to aging products from the Is Clinical line.
So of course you have Super Serum Advanced Plus, which is your L-ascorbic acid, but your collagen encouraging L-ascorbic acid. I like to get this on someone who's maybe a little bit on the more youthful side, that late 20s, early 30s, almost like a 401k. Molly always points out L-ascorbic acid is like a 401k. You want to start using that as early as possible. Active Serum for all the great benefits that we've mentioned before, but in the case of an aging individual or anti-aging benefits, you're turning over dead skin cells, you're smoothing out that skin texture, addressing a multiple visible aging, signs of aging. You also have Youth Complex, which is one of my favorites. Youth Complex for me is like turning a raisin into a grape. You're volumizing the epidermis. You also have an ability to encourage collagen. Long term, and then intermediate benefits, you have this smoothing out of skin texture. So again, it's layer upon layer upon layers of great benefits. Now, a lot of us tend to forget what? We said earlier, shield for elbows, knees, and toes. A lot of women end up forgetting this area, the neck and décolleté. So Neck Perfect Complex is part of that anti-aging or age management regime. And then of course, our favorite, my favorite, Youth Intensive Creme. But Youth Intensive...
I want to smell like Youth Intensive Creme.
So Youth
smells
Intensive
so good.
Creme really is that perfect blend of all those fancy creams that our clients and our patients come in and say, oh, I'm using this, I'm using A, I'm using B from the department stores, luxury skincare, but clinical. You're getting all of those aromatics, all that wonderful feel and the sensation, the experience of a cream, of a luxury cream, but you're getting the clinical results. 100% improvement in hydration, and of course, long-term benefits of improved elasticity and laxity.
Well, Youth Intensive Creme has been an absolutely phenomenal product, and we just love it. And every single year, I mean, people just become more and more excited and on the Youth Intensive Creme. So if somebody is just experiencing the beginning of the aging process, and maybe they have a little bit more oily skin, you want to start them off with the Youth Complex. So Youth Intensive Creme, if you're a little bit drier or you're further along in your life stage, because inevitably as we age, we have a transepidermal water loss, especially if we are postmenopausal. And so more hydration is something that we're always going to be looking for as we get older. The Youth Intensive Creme provides that quenching hydration and moisturization, and it's also going to build collagen. It's going to improve the elasticity. The skin is going to be smoother. It's just an absolutely beautiful product. And another thing is that clinical skincare wasn't always luxurious or cosmetically elegant, but that's one of the things that I loved when I was introduced to the Is Clinical line, is these products were so luxurious, they were so beautifully packaged, people liked using them, and we didn't always have that experience with some of the other clinical skincare products that we had. And that's one of the things that consumers like. At the end of it, they are consumers, right? And it is also how they feel about it, how they look. It's not just about the results, and we've got to keep that in mind. So anti-aging, this patient here was on, actually this was just Active. And this is a good testament to Active's incredible anti-aging benefits. So it's exciting. Our top
So
pick?
your anti-aging top pick, of course, is Youth Intensive Creme. Because, like Molly said, it's basically everything that you need in one fabulously luxurious cream. It's going to address fine lines and wrinkles. You're going to see an improvement in elasticity. Hydration in 24 hours. Improved hydration in 24 hours. Potent antioxidants with an L-ascorbic. And protection as well. I also like because it provides a little bit of that surface moisturization. So it's the best of both worlds. You get hydration, but you also get that surface moisturization.
All right, so now let's talk about the eye area. You know, the second patient that Dr. Sarshad and Dr. DeHaven and I looked at was somebody in their 30s, had a very youthful appearance, but already starting to see the aging process around the eyes. And that's because it's the first area that we really age. One thing to keep in mind is that I always recommend whatever it is that you're treating on your eye, also do your lips, because the skin is very delicate and it's very similar. So I always do my youth eye here, and I always make sure to put it on my lips. So the eye area, basically this becomes a concern oftentimes in the early to late 20s for most of your patients, and it will continue to be a concern as we get older, especially as we age, we have children, we don't sleep, we have stressful jobs. You know, the eye area really can tell a story. sometimes of the difficulties in your life, if you didn't sleep last night, that kind of thing. But help is on the way with CI Advanced Plus and Youth Eye. Youth Eye is absolutely phenomenal, and CI is like the unsung hero in the eye category. I love it so much.
Well, I'm a big fan, of course, anything that says the word youth. Youth Eye Complex for me is great because it addresses under eye dark circles, under eye puffiness, fine lines, and wrinkles. It has an ability to not only immediately hydrate, but also use that hydration to volumize the epidermis, really addressing all of those little peripheral fine lines and wrinkles. For me, it's usually not that one larger wrinkle that makes the eye area look older, but it's all those tiny ones that accentuate that one larger wrinkle. It also has my favorite ingredient, acetyl octapeptide 3, which softens and mediates muscle contractions, but topically. So it's a nice complement to anyone that's doing a neurotoxin.
Yes, we love that, right? CI Advanced Plus is absolutely fantastic for the treatment of dark circles. They can be very difficult. Dark circles are not easy to treat, but I have seen phenomenal results with the brightening that occurs when somebody is using that CI Advanced Plus. So when recommending CI Advanced Plus, you want to make sure to walk people through it, because using a serum around the eye is a bit unique. So on clean skin, put a drop just on. I always say to use, when you're using your serums, use the back of your hands. This is something that actually Sandra taught me, because then you get the benefits on the back of your hands while you're doing it. How many of you have been taking care of your hands, your neck, your décolleté, your arms, because all these things age us. So it's important, something to think about, using your products on the back of your hands. But I use just one drop of that CI Advanced Plus, dab it on the ocular border, then I go to the vermilion border, and then I use my Youth Eye on top of it. Now, if somebody walks into practice and they can't quite afford the Youth Eye, CIL is also a great, it's more affordable, and it's also very multitasking. So that's also a nice way to introduce a really effective eye product at a lesser price point. But I love to layer the two because I really think it makes a huge difference. And let's just be honest, sleep is not always on my side right now with my work and travel schedule and 2 kids, so I'm happy to have my CI and my Youth Eye. This is an interesting before and after. This actually came to us from one of our patients, one of our clients in Texas. And this person she was taking before and afters to prove that Youth Eye did not work. And she was proved wrong. So this is after 12 days. Look at these results. Absolutely fantastic. Her little bunny lines, you can see relief. They're a lot more plumped and smooth. Of course, the laxity here underneath was greatly improved, and then also the crow's feet as well. So this is really a testament, because she was taking this photo to prove us wrong, that no eye product really works on me, and then look at what happened.
We'll take that challenge on.
Yeah, we will. We'll take that challenge.
And Molly always says, apply when recommending this Youth Eye Complex or giving the sample, always do the right eye, because it's the right choice.
You have to come up with these little rhymes and riddles for people, right? Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I am so pleased to have 2 phenomenally brilliant minds join me on the stage. Dr. Raman Sarshad and Dr. Charlene DeHaven are joining me to talk about common clients. So this is a little bit more practical application of what it is that we do in the practice. So please, Dr. Charlene DeHaven and Dr. Sarshad. All right, so for those of you who may or may not know, Charlene DeHaven is the clinical director for Innovative Skincare. She's kind of a big deal, right? And Dr. Sarshad is a great friend of mine, a phenomenally loyal Is Clinical fan, and we're so pleased to have you. So please, have a seat. Let's get cozy. All right. So let's get to it. Let's talk about these different clients. And I would like your opinion as to what it is that you see when you look at these people. And all of you out there, do the same, okay? We're gonna assess these clients and figure out what it is that we need to do. We welcome the exchange if you have questions or comments. So, Dr. DeHaven, when you see this patient here, this gorgeous, beautiful woman, what is it that you see? And tell me what goes through your mind.
when this individual would walk through my door, I would immediately think, this is a person who is aging, but who has been fortunate to be aging gracefully. Now, there are many things you could tell her, and I'm sure a lot of those things are going through your mind because you do this as a profession. I do want to make the point that it's very important, first of all, to tell her something positive about herself, because it is truly amazing how many beautiful women, even beautiful women, have a negative self-concept. And that's one thing you can do to help with everyone. Everyone has something good about themselves, and you can point that out. And so that immediately gives her something that everyone needs. The other thing that is very, very important to do is to ask her what her goals are. It's very easy to look at a person and choose from your large armamentarium of recommendations and say, well, you need this and this and this, and I can help you with all of those things, from topicals to lasers, and there are many treatments in between that could be done. So ask her what her goals are and how you could help her achieve those goals. I think those are the main points I want to make about this client. We know, all of us know, as we look at this face, there are many things we could recommend for her that would be helpful, some of which she may want to do and some of which do not interest her. If you give her too many, she may be overwhelmed, or she may think you're trying to sell her too many treatments. And if you give her too few recommendations, she might think you're not interested or you don't see her in her totality. So just be very careful about those two things.
Thank you. Dr. Sarshad, what do you see when you see this patient?
A very beautiful person, very natural looking, very gracefully aging person. And in my case, it's very hard because you look at her and you say, okay, what is it that's bothering you, instead of what I think you should do. So I start with addressing their concerns and whatever bothers them, because getting into it and saying, okay, you should do this and you should fix this and this is what you should do, you're basically going to lose the person and upset them. And I have someone that I work with that does exactly that. And makes them cry and they run away.
We don't want, oh no, we don't want them crying in our office. Well, they can cry on the way to the office, but we just don't want them to cry when they're there, right?
I agree.
Well, you know, one thing that I see with this patient, I mean, she's absolutely gorgeous. I hope I could be so lucky to look like her when I'm her age. But what I see is somebody that doesn't want to do a lot of stuff, right? Like, she looks like she's aging gracefully. And we can know just by observing another person, you can make some assumptions with them, because she doesn't look like she's overdone. But, you know, because of the loss of the volume a little bit, you know, the crow's feet, a little neurotoxin, a little filler here in the face, and she would be great for white lightning in particular, because she does have some actinic bronzing on her chest and arms. I see white lightning complex would be really good with her, but I think that it's important for us to understand she's probably somebody who, like, she's taking care of herself more like she's eating well, she's exercising well. So making sure that the things, Dr. Sarshad, when we had our conference call, one thing that you said about her is she'd be a great candidate for laser resurfacing, because it's not going to alter the way she looks, but it'll improve her texture.
Fractional lasering, just to tighten the skin, get rid of the fine lines, and then really address whatever is bothering her. If it's the little lines in the nasolabial folds, a little bit above her lip, and just tightening those, really comes down to what's bothering her most, but she will need very minimal treatments.
Yeah.
One thing that she exhibits that is very common in our clients is that they tend to take better care of their faces than their neck and their décolleté area. And as Molly pointed out, we do see some bronzing on her décolleté area. We see a little bit of the poikiloderma savat on her neck, which is bronzing from sun exposure. And she typically, compared to others, of her age has not been as diligent in taking care of her neck and décolleté as she has her face. So the White Lightning products would be very good for her.
Let's go to this patient. She's very youthful, but I'm seeing a little beginnings of the aging process. So, Dr. DeHaven, what do you see when you see this patient?
Again, she's very fortunate in that she is quite beautiful, and the canvas is good to work with, so you would point that out to her. She is starting to age around her eyes a little bit. And the eye area in most ethnic groups is the first area to age. There are a number of biologic reasons for that. The skin in the periorbital area is thinner, and so the capillary network with the blood flow is closer to the air. Oxidation, free radical damage occurs more readily in that area. In some ethnic groups, there's quite a bit of periorbital darkening that can occur even in younger years. Not so much in Caucasians, but in those of Middle Eastern descent, particularly East Indian descent, and sometimes in Asian descent, that will occur. In African Americans, the periorbital area ages first in some drooping of the outer canthus. That's quite common. She is getting some crow's feet and some wrinkling, and that is more typical in the Caucasian group. Caucasians wrinkle first, pigment later as a group. It is important at this point to put her on some corrective treatments for her periorbital area and also some maintenance. She also is starting to develop some expression lines, some deeper expression lines. Her nasolabial folds are not quite as prominent, but her smile lines are really starting to turn up. She is very fortunate in that her skin tone is good. She does not have a lot of variability in pigmentation. And one thing that more recent research has shown is that pigmentary irregularities, if they are, let's say, severe or very prominent, will age a face up to about 12 years. She's fortunate in that she does not have pigmentary irregularities. Her skin tone is even. But in many individuals, especially sports-minded, they're outside a lot, there's a lot of photo aging, we will see that. And that needs to be addressed with topicals, with treatments that are appropriate for the Fitzpatrick type, and perhaps with other types of treatments.
Dr. Sarshad.
The one thing that I notice on her is the crow's feet that she's developed. Preventative neurotoxins just to prevent her from really getting those from setting in deep. I really think that an eye cream, your youth eye cream, would help her significantly from really forming the lines. And this is hard to really assess when they're smiling. So when they're smiling, all the expressions are showing. So you really can't look at the cheeks. You can't really look at the nasolabial folds. She's got a clear skin, and pretty much the only other thing I would say is keeping up with the topical skincare line to prevent from anything else.
Yeah, because she really has very few issues with her skin, and like you've both pointed out, she has a very clear complexion. So the study that Dr. DeHaven is referring to is that people that had heavily pigmented skin looked 12 years older than their chronological age, and that's been studied. So when somebody has wrinkles, we actually don't identify that they are as old as we do with pigmentation. So that's a great thing for us in this room because we can really help people with their pigmentation and help them to look more youthful. She has a very clear complexion. She needs to keep it. So Advanced Plus, sunscreens, and also doing some preventative, especially like for the crepiness around here. Chemical peels are also great for her. So she can have this beautiful complexion for years to come, which will make her look a lot younger, even though she might have a little crepiness here, as we get older. Let's look at this gentleman. What do you think, Dr. DeHaven, when you look at this patient?
One thing I would point out is as an industry, we are seeing more and more men come through our doors. This is an individual who also could benefit from topicals, some neurotoxins, possibly fillers, lasers, a whole spectrum of treatments. And I'll let Dr. Sarshad address that further. The thing I want to point out about our male clients have some differences compared to female clients. For one thing, they come in usually with a specific problem or issue, and they want that addressed. We call that, they want results-oriented skincare. So they are specific about why they walked through your door. They want definite, clear, and more and simpler recommendations with fewer steps than the female clients, and they want those steps to work quickly. So when they come back for follow-up, they can report an improvement. If that doesn't happen, unfortunately, you will probably lose that client. They want simple instructions, skincare that has minimal steps with not overly fluffy packaging or appearance, like they don't like real perfumery things. They're a special market, but a growing market.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Dr. Sarshad.
This is a very natural-looking gentleman. The thing about men, when they come into the office, they normally ask for one or two things to be fixed. Mm-hmm. They know exactly what they want. They come in and they say, this is what's bothering me. Focus on this. Give me the results on that. And don't talk about anything else.
What are the things that they mostly say?
Well, that's individual based. So everybody comes in with their own preconceived idea of what they want fixed. Mm-hmm. In a gentleman like this, the neurotoxins would help him significantly, but I've had men that look exactly like this and they say, I want the lines above my forehead. I don't mm-hmm. want you to take those away. That actually is my character. Mm-hmm. So I don't really start by telling him that's what you should take away. I would like to address exactly what got them to the office and just take care of exactly what they want. Mm-hmm. It is hard to put men on skincare products. Mm-hmm. It's doable, but it's very hard because most men will resist it and they'll say, okay, they will try it for a short period of time and mm-hmm. then you have to remind them again.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I see with this gentleman, like Dr. Sarshad just pointed out, sometimes men don't want their wrinkles to be addressed. One thing that's important that I notice with men a lot of times is that if their teeth are yellow, it ages them. So that's one thing to talk to men about is whitening their teeth. That makes them look a lot more youthful. Dr. Sarshad, when we were talking during our conference call, one thing that you said that was interesting, oftentimes men will come into your office because they are recently divorced and they're on the dating market again, or they're trying to get a job.
A new job.
So that's important though, if it's because of a new job or because, they want to go on a date or whatever. That motivation, like we spoke about just a little bit ago, understanding their motivations of why they walked into the practice is really important. Another thing that I see with this gentleman is on his neck, his sun damage is a lot more prominent as far as the discoloration than on his face. Why is that? Why does that happen, where men are a lot more sun damaged here than on their face?
Well, many times they will wear a cap or shades, and even if they are not using product, which, as Dr. Sarshad pointed out, commonly they are not, they still have some solar protection mechanically by the sunglasses and the cap, but their neck is still exposed, and so it's not unusual. Also, if they wear a beard, that will be solar protective, so there could be any number of reasons why that's occurring.
And the neck is thinner skin, so you're going to get much more sun damage on the neck than the face, given the same exact exposure. So.
Are you guys seeing a lot more men in your practices? Yes? It's fun. It's exciting. I like it. I'm happy. And then they understand what we go through, right? Now let's look at this patient. This seems to me a little bit more complicated case just at first glance. Dr. DeHaven, what do you see when you see this patient?
Well, of course, I see the inflammatory change. So I do see inflammation, and this inflammation is, I would say, rosacea. The inflammation of rosacea is a vascular hyperreactivity of the central face, and you see that erythema in this patient.
right here.
Now, it's in her, she's had the hyperreactivity from her small blood vessels repeatedly to the point that she has inflammation that's there all the time. And in the early occurrence or diagnosis of rosacea, that usually is not true. It comes and goes. That's one of the reasons why it's one of the many reasons why it's difficult to diagnose. But this individual is very fair, as is often found in rosacea, but not always. There are some darker Fitzpatrick types that may have rosacea, but this person is, of course, a lighter Fitzpatrick type. She's starting to get some pigmentary irregularities, particularly of her temporal areas. And so due to her inflammation, she is aging faster. There's this term that's been coined in our industry that's now in use in other areas of medicine called inflammaging, which indicates that processes of inflammation are very intimately tied with accelerated aging. This person who is fairly young is experiencing that. She should not have these hyperpigmented spots on her temples, but yet she does. Now, she also has some extra hair on her upper lip, and that could be addressed by some procedures. Seeing that she's a little bit overweight, she has this hair, which, you know, in medical language we call she is somewhat hirsute. That brings to mind perhaps some hormonal imbalance that could be addressed by another consultation with a different specialty. So I would just point out to you that many times the people who come to see you have other issues. Don't be hesitant to refer them for help of other problems that you may see. Even if you can't, you don't have to make the diagnosis. You may just be suspicious, or you may think, well, something's going on with this patient that's not quite right. You'll do them a favor by early referral and having the possibility of those other issues addressed by the appropriate specialty. One thing I definitely would do for her is I would address her inflammatory change before I got into addressing any other skin issues that she has. We know in our industry that many of our treatments upregulate the inflammatory process. And it's a what we call a, quote, controlled inflammation. So it serves us well. We use it to our client's advantage, but it still occurs. And you don't want to push her inflammation up even higher. That will not help her. You want to get that under control first and then deal with the remainder of her issues, and there are several.
Well, the contributing factors could be diet, sun exposure, of course, genetics, and the way to address this in my office, I would give her a photofacial and reduce the capillaries that are on her face that are inflammatory and bring down that redness. In terms of the hirsutism that you're talking about, the best way is to just do a laser hair removal and get that off of her. And the actual sun damage that you're talking about with the dark spots, best way is to actually that photofacial that you do will address both of those. And then I've always put my clients on ProHeal after the treatments to help maintain the redness and reduce that.
We hear this all the time when we travel. We do these seminars all across the country, and at every seminar we always have somebody give an incredible testimonial about ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus totally changing their skin because they've been dealing with rosacea, sometimes even for decades. They've had every topical, every oral. They still have painful and difficult rosacea. They get on ProHeal and it changes their life. So, I mean, this patient's a fantastic candidate for ProHeal Serum Advanced Plus. And so whenever there's inflammation, get somebody on ProHeal Serum. So, like you said, photofacial would be great. Also, an ND 1064 YAG would be great. Also, there's different modalities that could be helpful.
I do that combined with photofacial. So when I do the photofacial, at the end I do ND-YAG.
So it's exciting, though, to be able to help patients like this, even with the topical, and even just a few laser treatments, they'll start to see a lot of relief. However, rosacea is similar to that of melasma. When you have it, you will always have it to some extent, so suppressing it. So making sure that your patients and clients understand that, setting clear expectations with them so that they're not disappointed. Here we have a more unique case as far as her ethnicity. So Dr. DeHaven, when you see this patient, what is it that comes to mind for you?
Well, several things. One thing is her ethnicity, and this individual also points out the importance of taking a good history. And not forgetting about ethnic background. It appears, obviously, that she has some Asian ethnicity, but if you don't take an ethnic history and ask her about her parents and grandparents, you may miss something important. Perhaps she had a grandmother who was African American, and because of that, she may be subject to some complications from treatment, such as hypertrophic scars or keloid formation. You would want to know that going in so that you and the patient don't get into difficulties over that lack of history taking. The other thing, of course, you see when you look at this face, she's also very, very pretty. You see her freckles, which frankly I find quite beautiful. However, since she is of Asian background, and in the Asian subculture, a flawless, even, paler complexion tends to be desirable. She may not like her freckles. And you could help her with that. You should ask her, about that, or that might be her presenting complaint when she comes in. The other thing, whenever you have an individual of childbearing age, remember, in this case, or when you see them in the office one time, that is only one point in time. And they have many other time periods in their life. This individual is probably still having menstrual periods, and she may have some acne breakouts during her cycles. You would want to ask her about any type of cyclic changes, or if her skin changes throughout the month or the year. That would be important to consider also.
Good. I really, that's a good reminder for us to take a full background, because we don't necessarily, you can't just assume that you understand somebody's Fitzpatrick type just by looking at them. You've got to get that profile. So that's a good reminder to all of us. Dr. Sarshad, what do you see when you see this patient?
I'm seeing on the right, under the right eye, there's some melasma that's forming that is going to be challenging, because in ethnic women, melasma is a very difficult thing to deal with, and picking the wrong technology to deal with the melasma can actually make it worse. So probably a chemical peel that's safe for her skin is the right thing to do. The other question is, does she like her freckles or not? Well, whether she does or not. If you do the chemical peel, that will reduce that as well. And then, just trying to address some of the pores that she's starting to develop, and tightening her skin. You can do that with radio frequency. You can do that with fractional laser, even though the fractional laser can actually touch off the melasma and actually make it worse. You can treat it at a very low setting and actually reduce the melasma instead of making it more reactive. Other than that, I think she just needs to be in a preventative skincare.
Using her sunscreens, and also the Advanced Plus would be good for her. Let's go to this patient, a little bit more complications within the skin. And also I see somebody who hasn't necessarily sought out a lot of aesthetic treatments. So this is a good patient, because we can do lots of great things, but again, the question comes up, what is it that she does want to do or she does not want to do? But what do you see when you see this patient, Dr. DeHaven?
I see an individual, as you just described, a person who has aged a little bit more, perhaps has not been on a good maintenance or preventive regime in the past, has sustained some photo damage, and also, of course, has some pigmented seborrheic keratoses. that can be addressed with procedures. She's, you know, as we all get older, free radical damage occurs, and gravity exerts its force on our face and the rest of us. And her face is exhibiting signs related to those stressors. So those should be addressed with procedures and topicals. It's very important to get this individual who has already aged some on a very good regime that takes her into the future. And of course, for everyone, that includes good sun protection. The tendency is that if one has very dark skin, one thinks, well, I'm protected from the sun. And actually, that is not the case. Even with the Fitzpatrick 6, very, very dark individuals, the best SPF you can get from that amount of melanin in your skin is 4 to 6. Perhaps that's why, now that we're living older and people are exposed to the sun, there's a real increase in melanoma in our older population. And of course, as one gets older, everyone needs a skin cancer surveillance.
It's a good reminder, that preventative health screening that we talked about earlier. Dr. Sarshad, what do you see when you see this patient?
On her, it's pretty obvious she has a lot of resorption of her fat in her cheekbones. And that's the place I would like to address first, actually lift up her cheekbones. Because when she was younger, she was probably with a much larger, much higher cheekbone that has now dropped down. And I'd like to lift that up for her. In the tear trough area, she has lost a lot of fat there. That's another place I'd like to replace that with the dermal fillers. She's had bone resorption in her chin area, and that actually is another area where I would go in and inject her with dermal fillers and see if I can get a better projection of her chin and lift up her nasolabial folds as well. In terms of the actinic keratosis that you mentioned, I would just hypercrate those off. I'd burn those off with radio frequency and get that off of her face. She has a little bit of expression lines in her forehead, and it would be up to her to just remove a little bit of that with the neurotoxins and lift up the eyebrows with neurotoxins as well.
So when you remove her freckling and moles on her cheeks, you said you use high frequency to remove it.
Not high frequency.
Oh.
I use a radio frequency,
Radio
machine just to burn them off, and I usually leave them with no scarring at all.
That's great.
I'd say 95% of the time I have no scarring from it. And you have to do it superficially. You may have to do it multiple times. And if you don't go in very deep, you can actually get it to be without a scar.
That's fabulous. So we can give some relief to those moles and growths that our patients can have on their skin, but without causing scarring. So I love that advancement. So now let's look at this younger person. I don't know whether it's a male or a female, but I would think that this is a young man, but we don't know. Clearly experiencing some acne. So what is it when you see, Dr. DeHaven, this patient, what is it that you think of?
When I see this person, of course I see a person who has acne. That's very obvious. I also see that this person is already experiencing some of the potential complications of acne. In addition to the active acne lesions on this individual's face, we see some scarring. And acne scarring, of course, is a potential complication of this disease. Also, there is some development of hyperpigmentation. And this is a type of post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Acne is inflammatory, and as a result of that, one can develop pigmentation irregularities. Now, it's not infrequent that in someone with acne, the acne scarring and the hyperpigmentation last longer than the acne problem itself. And those need to be dealt with farther into life. The other thing I see whenever I see a person with acne is, of course, the inflammation that can be very uncomfortable. But I also realize that this is very difficult emotionally for people with acne. It's actually embedded in our DNA. It goes way back to the time of ancient man, when having pustular lesions meant that you had a very bad disease. And there were no antibiotics or medical care then as we have now. And often this was a communicable disease. These people were to be avoided. When this individual looks in the mirror, they experience the same thing, that same gut reaction of, I'm ugly, I should be avoided. And that is why people with acne have emotional issues and depression. In fact, acne that's not treated well and that occurs in an individual's early years affects their later life functioning very much. People with acne, when they get jobs later on in life, they are lower paying jobs. They don't advance as much in their careers as individuals who did not have acne. Their mate selection is impaired if they've had acne, particularly severe acne. And so if this person walks in to see you, remember how much you can impact their life. Never forget that you can make a huge difference in this individual's life, not only now, but far into the future.
You know, I want to tell a story to that. Tina, all of those of you who are a part of the company know Tina, who's in North Florida. She's a territory business manager for us. But prior to her coming to work for us, she was a lead esthetician at a very successful medical spa. And she had this patient that would come in, and she had absolutely terrible acne, and she felt awful. And all of the emotional side effects of having acne were really resonating with her, and it was really controlling the way she felt about herself. So much so that she removed her mirror from her bathroom because she didn't want to look at herself in the mirror. So she came and she saw Tina, and Tina got her on the Fire and Ice, facials and active serum and ProHeal and HydroCool and cleansing complex. And within a month, she sent Tina a text and she said, I put my mirror back up. And that's like the power of what this industry can do. And I love that story because it's like, I can't even look at myself in the mirror to now I wanna see myself again. So be sympathetic and empathetic to our acne patients because it's difficult what they're going through. Dr. Sarshad, what do you see?
My acne patients come in with a lot of emotional attachment and how they feel about themselves. So I see that with almost everybody that comes in with acne, and what it does for them once the acne is gone after we do the treatments, and how much better they feel, how much better they think of themselves, and their self-image has changed. So it's a big part of the actual treatment. What I normally do is try and find out what they've tried first. What kind of a treatment have they tried first? So I don't want to really go into something that they've done and has failed. So the first thing to do is find out, what have you tried? And I don't really want to repeat exactly what you've done before because it's not going to work. And then after that, the biggest thing is topical. Can we address this with topical products? Can we put you on, the right cleanser? Can we put you on a retinol that will open up your pores? Do we need to try Retin-A? Do we have to use other products that are all topical first? And if they're opposed to that, then we would use other products or other technologies such as a photofacial or a photodynamic therapy. And I've had great response with photodynamic therapy, which is basically a microderm first, putting on an acid that is light activated, and then activating that acid with the photofacial. And I've had fantastic results.
Yeah.
It's changed people's lives.
We did the same procedure when I was running a medical spa, and it was phenomenal, the results. So that's that's motivating, to get those results. Well, thank you so much. That was awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
This is a real treat. We go around the country all the time. We do these seminars. I think this is like our 65th advanced seminar. But we have never had the privilege of having Brian and Alec on the stage as we do today. So this is a special treat. We're really happy.
Thank you.
So let's talk about is Clinical as a company first. So let me explain to you. Brian is the idea man, and Alec is the money man.
We call him B of A, Bank of Alec.
Yeah, Bank of Alec. And what I describe Brian and Alec as a yin and yang, and both together make this perfect thing, because we've got to have that, the difference of the personalities and the balance. And so Brian, our CEO, really is the ideas man. Not to say that Alec doesn't have great ideas, because he does, but that Brian's, his main job is a product formulation, R&D, overseeing the company. And Alec makes sure that we have money to do what we need to do, which is really important and why I have a job. Exactly. So if you can talk to that a little bit, Brian and Alec, being privately held, this was a very important thing from the very beginning of the company. Why do these people in this room care about that, though? Why is that important to them?
Many people have a vision like that. They create a vision for themselves and for their company that they want to see come manifest. Mm-hmm. And what interferes with that vision? If you can get out of your way, like Molly had talked about earlier, about getting out of your own way so that you can succeed, what else might interfere with you creating the vision you want? Well, unfortunately, money. Mm-hmm. Sometimes money can get in the way. However, if you are the one controlling your money and you have set yourself up to be successful, you will have money. We believe that. That's a philosophy. That's probably more philosophy of life, that you create your own reality, and what you put out, you get back. So today, we are a cash company.
Mm-hmm. I know, it is. Great.
Now, how does that affect the way we operate our business? Well, the first thing is we answer to all of you, really. We answer to all of you. But in the morning, the first person I have to answer to is the person I see reflected in the mirror, mm-hmm. to say, are you proud of what you're doing? Mm-hmm. Are you doing things that are part of your mission that you said this was important to you? You said this is what you wanted to do. Are you doing those things? Are you living that reality for yourself or not? And I have to be able to say, yes, I am living the reality that I said I would, mm-hmm. that I made a commitment to. And that just comes from who I am as a person. And I think Brian would agree with that same statement. It's extremely important.
Alec is absolutely right. We founded the company with a very different mission. As he mentioned earlier, we created this company to help people. And we were going to do that both physically and emotionally. That was our goal. And we knew that to create products in particular that would be effective and safe, that we would never have to answer to the bottom line because the ingredients that we use, and we'll talk about that in a minute, can be extremely expensive. It may not say that on the box, but that's the case. And inevitably, we would probably have to answer to a venture capitalist or a bank or at some point saying, now you need to make your profits higher. And that might involve compromise of the ingredient quality or some of the other things that we utilize that keep our QC so high. So we elected to go the starvation route. That's what we called it. We figured, there's a way to do this. It was Alec and I, and it was Alec's credit cards in the beginning that financed us. And we were passion-driven. We believed from the beginning that we would create a company that was at this level, a global company, and we never looked back. There was a way. There was a way on very limited funds And one of the main things I think that, like I mentioned, is we did not want to have to answer to anyone. And Alec and I started the company. Dr. DeHaven came on board with us very much at the beginning and helped pay our rent a couple of times, I might add. But I think to answer your question, I think it's very important that we are self-funded and that we don't answer to anyone, and we're responsible for what we do. And we also give a significant amount of our profits into our charitable programs. That's something else that we would be limited on. So again, it speaks to the mission. We actually live the mission. We walk the walk, and I think that's very important.
Well, what's interesting about it, and all of you in this room know this, being in the industries, we're really one of the last holdouts for this, because so many of our competitors have been purchased by large pharmaceutical companies or large beauty companies, and sometimes it changes the philosophies, the way that they do business, and then also the products. And I know just, being a consumer of beauty products, it's like, oh, I love this conditioner, it's so great. And then the company gets bought and sold, and you're like, it's different. It still says the same name, but it's like, this isn't doing the same thing. And it really comes down to the ingredients that Brian was speaking to. So let's talk about R&D, which, Brian, this is really your hat, the research and development. And Charlene, you also are involved with this, but this is your passion, right?
This is the most fun.
Yeah.
R&D is definitely the most fun thing to do. It's creative. It does take a lot of work, and it takes a lot of collaboration. Dr. DeHaven and I worked together. We were a couple of co-founders of a very prominent anti-aging medical research institute long ago, a Longevity Institute. And while we were there, we really learned about integrative medicine, and we learned about the value of traditional medicine, i.e. botanical medicine, and how things that have been used in cultures for sometimes thousands of years can be extremely beneficial. We also were exposed to the most cutting-edge science, and we continue that philosophy now. So we were not basically choosing to utilize any sensational type of ingredients or things that we would see, for marketing purposes or anything like that. So I'll briefly take you through what the R&D process is, and it often starts with we want to create a product. What do we want this product to do? And we are continually discovering new ingredients and new technologies. So we work with a network all over the world of scientists. Most of them are in primary research. So they're literally sometimes dedicating their lives to discovering and basically figuring out a particular botanical ingredient or extraction or something like that, or perhaps a peptide technology or something like that might require a huge dedication. Well, I like to think of myself as the conductor of this orchestra. And so we're continually looking at the medical literature, the research literature, universities, and at this time, honestly, because we are known for our product's performance in utilizing pharmaceutical-grade raw materials, which is what we call ingredients, that we're continually pitched by pharmaceutical companies to use their ingredients because we're one of the only companies out there that will pay for it. Mm-hmm. And so at this stage, it's not quite as hard of a job as it used to be because they're continually coming in, wanting audiences with us, showing us the things they've been working on for sometimes 20, 30 years. Will you please use this? And so once we gather the information, and again, Dr. DeHaven helps with this a great deal. She reads more clinical literature than anyone I've ever known in my life, and she retains it. That's the beauty of it. She probably won't tell you that, but I think she has a photographic memory or something. But anyway, she's a fantastic resource. So we're looking at these new things, new technologies, and sometimes it may involve a botanical that we've used for a long time, but what we have discovered is a particular part of this extract has somehow been isolated, and that may increase the performance sometimes by 100 times or more, something like that. So we have a vast library of potential ingredients. That's our starting place. We're also researching different technologies in chemistry because we approach formulation from a chemistry viewpoint. We have to see what ingredient is going to bond with what else. So we have to look at the characteristics of the ingredients. And I think the most important thing is we need to make sure that these ingredients are going to combine in a way that is going to produce this formula that can go where we want it to go, to affect the skin the way we want it to affect it. And we call that area site of action. For example, let's say we want to create something that's going to help increase collagen synthesis. We have to target the fibroblasts. The fibroblasts are the cells that make the collagen, and they lay right on the DEJ, dermal epidermal junction. So we have to make sure that whatever we have in that bottle is going to get to the fibroblast and get inside of it and message it accordingly. So there are a lot of things that are very complicated about formulation, and it's trial and error to some extent. So we oftentimes will go through 20, 30 different versions, and the clinical testing is the most important thing that we do. We didn't really talk about that today, but we have huge volumes of independent clinical research that supports our products and our performance, including a granted study on polyvitamin serum from the NIH itself. That's really something. That's National Institutes of Health. That's really incredible. So we have these vast studies. Some are very, very complex. And frankly, if we're going through these different versions of products and they don't test as well as we think they should, then I'll have to make a little adjustment here or there and have to go back again and have it tested.
That is true. I will tell you, I'm in the office with Brian and Alec most days when they're not, going somewhere to see our international distributors or what, but that really is true. There's been conversations over different products, whatever, and then Brian wasn't happy with the clinical study. We don't launch it. And so I know that firsthand, having worked with you guys, so that's really something.
That's very true, and I also want to say that we are always wanting to stay innovative and on the cutting edge, which I like to think that we are, and we are always utilizing the best possible selection for our ingredients and our products. What you see in that bottle now is likely not exactly what was in that 5 years ago. Yes, the ingredients are the same, but if I can find a better, more pure version that's more effective, I will put it in there. And so this isn't something where we rest on our laurels. If we create, Active Serum has gone through several adjustments here and there when I find something that it might make it better performing, that kind of thing. And then when it reaches a point where I think it's more significant, that's when we would delineate it by the Advanced Plus, which is what we did with our vitamin Cs when we found a new stabilization process. And so we never rest on our laurels, not for any existing product and not for anything that we continue to formulate.
Yeah. So you've touched on this a little bit, the ingredients, but explain this slide, because this is really important.
It is. So many times what you'll see on our product labels, you see that we'll use a particular botanical extract instead of what it might yield. For instance, we'll use a sugarcane extract, Saccharum officinarum, instead of the alpha-hydroxy acid, the glycolic acid. That's because we can get more power out of it, and it is basically more easily tolerated by your body. So that's by design. But if you look out there, you're going to see some of the botanicals we actually use, and I think that's fascinating. So what this slide is showing you is Centella asiatica. So Centella, has been one of my favorite ingredients for decades now at this point. And it had been used traditionally and has been used traditionally to treat leprosy lesions, cuts and wounds in India, Southeast Asia, for over 2,000 years that we know of. As from when history was first recorded, that's how long it's been used. So there's some merit in that. That's the kind of thing that really gets us going. Dr. DeHaven and I, we start looking at these kinds of things, and we're like, there's some benefits here. So if you would take the Centella asiatica, which is also known as Gotu-kola plant, and that's the green side over there, it says Centella, and let's say you want an extract of that plant. Well, what you might do is you rinse it off, and you grind it up and dry it out. And that gives you what we see in the middle, which is kind of this brown powder, which is what is also known as cosmetic grade Centella. And of course, it has bark, it has leaves, it has all this stuff in there, and probably some fertilizer, if you know what I'm talking about. So it's not the most pure form of this. That's not good. That's not good enough for us. So this is where the science and the research comes into effect. And some scientists spent many, many years determining what is it about Centella that does what it does? How can that help us heal like it does? And they finally identify, after years of research, that it's a concentration of these 3 acids, these triterpenes that are located in the leaf portion of centella. At which time, and that's what I'm interested in, I want to buy that grade because it's 1,000 times more powerful and more beneficial than the brown powder. That's when it becomes pharmaceutical grade. It's so pure that it can be used in making a drug. So just to illustrate the difference in this, the cosmetic grade Centella asiatica runs about $50 a kilo. The pharmaceutical grade is about $5,000 a kilo. That's a lot of difference. Alec.
Bank of Alec has to approve.
But you know what? That is what makes the products perform, is you have to start with the purest. Now, are all ingredients we use pharmaceutical grade? No. But I can guarantee you they're the best. The reason they aren't is because, technically speaking, for something to be termed pharmaceutical grade, it means it needs to be listed in the Pharmacopoeia, which is a journal. And it has to go through lots of different steps, and it's very expensive to get an ingredient included in that. Does that mean that it's any more pure than other ultra-purified forms of botanicals and things? No, but that's sometimes why you won't see botanicals classified as technically pharmaceutical grade. I think it's important to tell you that because, again, ethics is one of the primary important things for our company, and that's the honest thing. So you probably won't find anyone that uses all pharmaceutical grade. They may use the best they can, and many of them are graded pharmaceutical. So I do want to say something about ingredients because we have a tendency to be very ingredient focused. Oh, do you use this type of ingredient? Do you have niacinamide, or do you have vitamin C, or these kinds of things? For me, all the ingredient is a starting point. I don't really care about it. I mean, I care about it when I'm originally trying to develop a formula, but I'm looking for what's it going to do when it combines with the other things in the formula. I want to know what is in this bottle going to do for you. Because honestly, one of the ingredients in there may be fantastic. It may be the most powerful antioxidant we have ever seen. But if you mix it with anything, it doesn't work. So I like to use this illustration. So what is hydrogen in its natural state?
A gas.
Anybody? Gas. Okay. And what's oxygen?
A gas.
Okay. What's H2O?
Water.
Water. That's a little different, isn't it? So if you're talking about hydrogen in your gas and you concentrate on that too much, it's so different from water. Well, that's basically what happens in a formula. So when we're selecting ingredients to put in the products, we're looking at what is it going to bond with and what is it going to do then? And how big is that molecule going to be? That kind of thing. But that's the science you need basically to create products that are going to really perform.
What's important for your patients is that on the back of a box, if it is a cosmetic grade, it'll say Centella asiatica. If it is a pharmaceutical grade, it will also say Centella asiatica. And that's where your value and knowledge is so important. You have to educate your clients and your customers to this because they don't know that. I mean, I'm sure several of you here in the room didn't know that until Brian just explained it. I didn't know that until he explained it to me as well. So that's important to let them, you've got to educate your clients that these products are pharmaceutical grade, they're botanically based, and this is why this makes a big deal, because there's no regulatory for us. So it's important to walk our patients through that.
I think it's very important. The cosmeceutical industry is not regulated by the FDA. It's an honor system. And I think that you really have to look to the company that's providing products and make sure they're reputable and make sure that whatever clinicals they have supporting the product's performance, and this is for any company, but make sure that they have studies that are done independently so they're unbiased, and make sure the study is done on the product itself, not the ingredient. And I think that's something that if I could recommend anything to you, because you are the professional, you're the one that is advising your patients what to use. I mean, I would love for you to use our Is Clinical products, but the truth is anything that you're advising someone to use, make sure you're convinced and that it's been proven to you independently that this works.
Great. Now let's talk about formulating, which I think is also your favorite subject, formulating.
It is. I wish I had more time in the lab. So once we get the ingredients selected and the technology we want to use, then we start the formulation process. Like I said, we do this on paper first. So we try and figure out what is going to bond with what. Well, the way you get things to bond together requires energy. If you think back in your chemistry classes when you're in grade school or something, and the energy that we use is basically going to be created by heat and or agitation, like putting a propeller in there. So we have to figure out how much energy does it take to make this chemical bond. That's what we're looking at. So formulation is not like throwing a bunch of ingredients into a big kettle. That's not what it's about. We have to, perhaps we're going to have a product that has 15 ingredients. Well, we might combine ingredient A, B, and D together, and to get them to bond together, they might have to be heated to a specific temperature, and we may have to mix them at 1200 RPM, and you can actually see that part of the formula change color or change characteristic or something like that. So when it reaches that point, then we're also doing the same thing with these other what we call phases. So you're creating the chemical bonds, then you start folding things in together. This is really important, and it's a lot of fun for me. I love doing this because, frankly, we make a lot of formulas that a lot of chemists will say are impossible to make because it requires a lot of research and it requires a lot of practice to do it. So once we get the things together, then we call that benching. If we're benching a product, that means we're making it right there on that lab bench. Well, shoot. Yeah, it's easy to get energy out of that, but oh my gosh, we need to get the energy into the product, and we're going to make a lot more than a half a pound of product like here. That requires a lot more energy. So it's also very challenging to take something from what we call bench to batch. Bench is this, it's easier to put things together in that little beaker. When you get it to this point, this is the manufacturing. Now, one of the things I really want to emphasize is we make all of our products in-house, all of them. Our labs are in-house. 2 reasons. One, I'm kind of a control freak, but the formulas are very, very critical. They are a very advanced type of chemistry. It takes a lot of energy to do this, and when we're dealing with these ingredients, we can't afford to make a wrong choice. I don't want anybody doing this except our own well-trained chemists. And so there's a picture there. You can see some of what we call tanks. Those are what you call those kettles, if you will, where we make the product. And you can see that it's like it's a double boiler. I don't know if any of you guys make chocolate, which is my favorite thing, but let's say you're melting chocolate, and you're going to have one pan, and it's going to have boiling water. Then you put another pan in it, and that's where you melt your chocolate so you don't burn it. So what you'll see is these are double jacketed. There's a tank within a tank. Each one of these stainless steel tanks has another one inside. And in between the 2 tanks is a space in which we circulate steam or very, very cold water so we can control the temperatures. We have a large number of different propellers and sweeps and all this different equipment to mimic the energy that we get in a laboratory. So again, it's very difficult to do. Many times a formula will require hours to create, and it will take 4 or 5 tankfuls of things before we start folding things together. We also like to make everything fresh, honestly. So when you're using pharmaceutical grade materials, and particularly botanicals, in a lot of cases we use, I would say, a good portion, in some cases the entire supply of that particular extract for the United States. So every time an ingredient comes in, we put it through testing to make sure, it goes through this infrared testing and these other kinds of very complex tests, to make sure that it's exactly like the one that we used before, that it's that effective. So once we get those things identified, then we have to use that in manufacturing. The $5,000 kilo is not our most expensive ingredient, by the way. We have one that's $11,000 a kilo that we use. And so you can't make a mistake. That's the truth of it. So we like to have all of this under roof, and it gives us the greater control, and above all, it's the quality control. So we know that it is exactly what we're giving to you, or we're telling you what it is, and we have guaranteed, our quality assurance has guaranteed that it is exactly like it should be.
And I think that this is probably another difference that most people don't realize. Certainly Your clients and patients don't realize this, but most skincare companies do not make their own product. They are usually farmed out to third-party manufacturers because that is much more cost-effective. This is very expensive. But when you're a company that does manufacturing and only does manufacturing, does not sell a brand on their own, those companies are set up to bring it in and move it out, ship it in and ship it out. It's very, very mechanical for them. So when Brian was saying, oh, well, you can't just pour all these ingredients into some pan and mix it up and presto, you've got a product. Well, unfortunately, a lot of third-party manufacturers, and we've visited many of them here in Los Angeles and in New Jersey and in other places as well, even around the world. Many of them do just that. They have a base. It's the same base they use for every company. They have a few raw materials that they put in because that particular brand wanted to use the marketing of an ingredient like Centella Asiatica. They put a little bit of that in there, a little powder, and kind of that's it. Stir it up, package it, and ship it out. Well, that is, to us, not the way to do it. The way to do it is with the best technology, which is why we made this investment, because we knew if we're going to live up to that vision that we said we're going to do, that this is the best way for us to do that. We can do this better, live up to our vision with this type of facility. So we made that investment.
It's really exciting to work at the corporate headquarters because I'll be up in my office doing the business stuff, the business plans, talking to the TBMs, and then to go into the manufacturing side, it's like, oh, it's a whole other world. And I especially love it when we're making cleansing complex because it smells so good back there. And this last one is Victoria Vortex.
Yeah, so we had a
Which is-
tank naming contest. Yeah, we have to keep it fun in there too. So the one in the back, the large tank, these are custom-made tanks. It takes about 6 months to make them. This one we made in Washington State, and we had to ship it down. And it was like buying a couple of luxury cars, honestly. And so we were so excited. We said, okay, now we have to give her a name.
We christened
So,
her.
Yeah.
It was fun.
So yes, her name was chosen as Victoria Vortex Burtank because we're in Burbank. So the Vortex comes from, I don't know if you guys mix it, if you've ever had anything in a mixing bowl and you're mixing it up like in a high-speed mixer, and you'll see kind of where the divot happens, where things kind of get sucked down there, that's the vortex. And when you're formulating, that's a really important spot to be in because that's what's going to take the product down into the mixture.
All right, Dr. DeHaven, let's talk about oxidative stress. So we've got these amazing products, and we have this huge world that we live in, and there's all these things happening to us, which is why we love our products. So oxidative stress goes a lot into the R&D that you and Brian do, talk about the formulation, and really why we formulate the types of products that we do. So explain oxidative stress and how we can help it.
Oxidative stress is a condition of imbalance within our bodies where there's some protection going on that's always deficient and damage is always occurring in our bodies in excess of the protection. So that's a state of stress, a state of oxidative stress. That's where the term comes from. We also, all of us know the term free radical damage. And oxidative stress, this imbalance, the remaining damage that occurs after protection is done, is free radical damage. And that's going on in our bodies all the time. There are many sources of free radical damage, and you see a list of some of those on the screen. Some of these are internal, such as nutrition, the creation of energy, which itself is a free radical process. Some of these are external. For skin, for example, there's a very important cause of free radical damage that comes from the sun. In fact, 85% of our skin's free radical damage comes from the sun. Then there may be others, such as pollution, smoking, various other things. All of these contribute to the free radical damage our skin experiences all the time.
One of the fun things we're going to share with you today, hopefully, is a lot of these things, like Dr. DeHaven was explaining oxidative stress, these are very complex theories, and we've been hearing about these things for a long time. People have heard about free radical damage, and we grew up hearing about this, but do we really understand it? And so what we decided we wanted to do is produce, because education is another very, very important part of our company, we wanted to create a video, and I'm going to show you just one. This is the video on oxidative stress. These reside on our website. And this, I think, does a really good job of explaining what this condition is, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we have lots of these videos explaining all of these different skin conditions and things like that, and we would love for you to go to isclinical.com and look at the science section, pull the educational videos up, because it really makes it a lot easier. It's a lot easier for me to understand. So this is the video we're talking about.
Hello, I'm Dr. Charlene DeHaven, Clinical Director for Innovative Skincare. Oxidative stress is simply damage to the body from free radicals. It disrupts the atomic structure within our cells.
In every atom, electrons orbit around the nucleus. Free radicals are high-energy atoms that contain an unpaired electron in their outer orbit, making them highly unstable. Free radicals gain stability by stealing an electron from the first substance they touch. This process reveals a new free radical every time an existing free radical becomes stable.
Humans have both internal and external sources of free radical damage or oxidative stress. For the cells inside our body, about 85% of all oxidative stress comes from the creation of energy within those cells. But for skin, which is exposed to sunlight, about 85% of all free radical damage comes from the sun. The remaining 15% comes from toxins and pollution.
The largest source of free radical damage to the skin is sunlight. The sun's rays are composed of packets of energy called photons. These photons are actually high-energy free radicals that lead to extensive cellular damage. Sunlight is composed of several different types of ultraviolet rays. UVA and UVB rays impact skin the most. UVA rays penetrate the skin deeper than UVB rays. As a result, UVA rays deliver more free radicals to the body. Free radicals are highly unstable particles and will combine with anything they touch in order to fill out their outer electron orbital. This collision between atoms causes damage to the molecular structure of any substance, including cell membranes, DNA, and vital organelles. This damage can lead to cancer and cell death.
The only way to combat free radical damage is to neutralize it with antioxidants. A variety of antioxidants is needed. This is because each antioxidant has different chemical properties.
Antioxidants work to neutralize free radicals by donating an extra electron to stabilize their outer electron orbits. Thus, when they donate an electron to a free radical, the antioxidant still has enough electrons to remain stable. In this way, antioxidants stop the free radical cascade and save our bodies from the damaging effects of oxidative stress. Hydrophilic, or water-loving antioxidants, target the space between the cells and the cytoplasm inside the cell. Lipophilic, or fat-loving antioxidants, target the cell membrane and cellular structures, such as the nucleus and organelles. Because each antioxidant goes to a different place, a combination of antioxidants is necessary to achieve the most efficient free radical reduction.
Our bodies do come with some internal antioxidant systems, but these, and even plus the foods we eat, are not enough to combat the amount of oxidative stress we experience daily and certainly over a lifetime. We need both hydrophilic antioxidants and lipophilic antioxidants. Topical antioxidants applied directly to the skin surface are needed. By treating free radical damage with antioxidants, we decrease the visible signs of aging and we improve the health of our patients.
One thing that Dr. DeHaven explained to me, which really is like kind of a light bulb, is that she addressed it in the video. You need a variety of antioxidants. And the analogy she gave is we all know that there's vitamin C in oranges, but you would never eat a diet of just vitamin C or oranges and have a healthy, balanced diet. It's the same thing for our skin. Now, in skin, we know L-ascorbic acid, vitamin C, this has been because it was really the first stabilized antioxidant that could be applied topically and was clinically proven to work. So we know our comfort zone is L-ascorbic acid, but the truth is that lots of different antioxidants is really good for our skin, and we'll address that with our new product too coming up. But I love that, lots of antioxidants in our product.
The video is pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, you can actually understand.
Also, how many of you are on isuniversity.org? Oh, good. Okay, so for those of you who don't know about Is University, it's a really unique online on-demand platform for the aesthetic professional. And what it does is it educates you without trying to sell you anything. So it's owned by Innovative Skincare, but we'll never talk about Is Clinical on it. We just try to educate you, and we enlist lots of different physicians and other skincare professionals. So if you're not on isuniversity.org, I encourage you to go to it, because they have a fabulous catalog of other animations, as well as lots of awesome information. There's a standard course and a premium course. So if you're not on isuniversity.org, please, I encourage you to go to it and encourage your staffs as well. All right, stem cells. This is like a super hot topic right now. Dr. DeHaven, explain stem cells, because there's a lot of weird information out there.
Stem cells are a great topic. The stem cells in our body are those cells that reproduce to give us daughter cells of every type. And stem cells also are special because they can differentiate into other types of cells from one stem cell. So that's just a little overview of what stem cells are. Now, stem cells in our industry, we hear a lot of talk about stem cells in topical skincare products. And I honestly do not think that people come into your offices trying to give you misinformation. I think that there is just a lot of difficulty understanding this complex topic. And sometimes people come in that work for various companies and they will tell you, for example, well, our products contain stem cells. That is absolutely impossible. And it is impossible for this reason. Stem cells are living tissue. You cannot take a bit of living tissue in the form of a cell and place it on the skin and expect it to live, for one thing. It will immediately die because it needs a supportive environment of blood vessels, extracellular matrix, a tissue like itself in which to exist. It needs all those things that it is not going to receive in the air with just a little bit of it sitting on your skin. The other thing about cells, stem cells included, is that they are very large structures compared to what we can actually deliver through the skin barrier into the skin. So here's another problem. Even if you could get this stem cell to live on your skin, which you cannot, but even if you could, to get it through the skin barrier into your skin, it is so large, it would be like trying to shove a skyscraper into your skin. It's just a huge structure. We know in formulating, we have difficulty getting peptides that are 5 amino acids long into the skin, and that's minuscule. That's a minuscule size compared to a stem cell, which by comparison is huge. So there's another issue. Now, what is offered, or what can we recommend for our patients in terms of things that relate to stem cells or are like stem cells that might be in skincare products? Some of these ingredients will surprise you because they're not as new or complicated as you might think. But what we have to offer our patients in terms of topical skincare products are ingredients that talk to stem cells. This in itself is very important. If you can influence a person's own stem cells to be healthier and to help their skin be healthier and younger and more beautiful, that's a great thing. I'm not trying to detract from that at all. That's a really great thing. These ingredients are called stem cell actives because they talk to stem cells. And some of them are very high tech, like newer growth factors, extremozymes, DNA protectants. Some stem cell actives you've heard of for a long time, and they include groups like antioxidants or anti-inflammatories. So the group of stem cell actives is fairly large. Some high-tech, some have been around for a while, but their goal is to talk to our stem cells and help our skin in that way.
Did somebody learn something new? Yes, I know, right? There's a lot of confusion.
You just have to love her. I mean, she's just like, okay, I get it now. Okay.
I always say you'll be smarter after hearing Dr. DeHaven talk than you were before. So growth factors, this is so present in our industry. Lots of skincare products have growth factors out there, but it's not as simple as it's just not as simple as people think, right?
Growth factors are another very interesting group. And they are proteins that are composed of amino acid chains that are used by our body to influence the growth and development of tissues. So skin needs various growth factors for skin to grow and develop properly. There are many growth factors, and there are several groups of products that contain growth factors. Some growth factors are quite controversial, which is not always communicated to you as professionals. But we, as a manufacturing company, we looked at all of the growth factors that were available, and as a manufacturer, we could select and purchase and use any of these that we chose to. We carefully evaluated the field of what was available, and from the group of growth factors that was available, we chose a particular growth factor called copper tripeptide 1 that has two characteristics that were very important in formulating. It is safe, no cancer potential, and it is effective. So those were the characteristics we wanted. That's why we selected this growth factor. There are other growth factors that can be used, but some of them in the medical literature are associated with the growth or development, potentiation of cancerous cells. And we did not want those.
We don't want that.
We don't want that.
No.
In fact, I know some of you have patients who see dermatologists for cancer surveillance who've probably been told, don't use any products containing growth factors. That's because they're familiar with the products that use all of the growth factors at once by using ground up human tissue and extracts from that. Those growth factors contain growth factors that are known, growth factors that are not known. And so if they're not known, we don't know what their function is. When I first started talking about this, I used to say there's about 40 growth factors that have been discovered. Now there's about 100. Well, the list keeps growing. We don't know what all of those growth factors do. They're still being studied, and some of them have not even been discovered yet. We know exactly what our growth factor does. We use one growth factor. It gives a single message, a consistent message, and it's quite effective.
I think it's important to also note that you guys can go buy whatever growth factor you want. You choose to buy this growth factor. That's important.
Yes, I think it speaks to the main thing I say about every product we will ever make is that it must encourage the skin health. Mm-hmm. It's got to be safe to use. You know, someone that's 90 years old. I mean, we want our products to be safe, and we want the skin to be healthier. Mm-hmm. And so we're very, very particular about choosing ingredients that are safe. Simple as that.
It's nice. Hyaluronic acid. I love hyaluronic acid. I think it's fabulous. Does anybody else in this room love hyaluronic acid? We want to inject it. We want to drink it. We want to put it on our skin. Give us more of it. But we utilize a lot of hyaluronic acid in the products. Why?
Well, because it's probably the best hydrator that we know. It's a humectant. So hyaluronic acid attracts water. And as you know, you lose water when you're sweating. And I'm going to make it very simple because it could be very complex. There are lots of different sizes of hyaluronic acid molecules. So we want something with a very small, if we want a hyaluronic acid that's going to penetrate the skin, we need a very low molecular weight, a very small hyaluronic acid. And when it gets in there and it gets in the skin, it attracts sometimes up to 1,400 plus times its weight in moisture. Well, the moisture that it grabs is our transepidermal water loss, our sweat, when we're giving that off. So what we want to do is we want to grab that and we want to utilize that and keep it in the skin. So hyaluronic acid also occurs in our body. I mean, we produce this. And we use different types without getting too complex, like if you're using an injectable type. And I'll probably defer to Dr. DeHaven to talk about the type of hyaluronic acid that we would use as for an injectable, as opposed to what we use in our products, which we intend on penetration. So they're a little different.
We also, of course, use hyaluronic acid for injection. And it gives volume, it plumps up the skin. It also retains water because that's its natural job within the skin. And as most of you know, because you do injectables in your practice, there are various types of hyaluronic acid that vary from thinner, less viscous or thick, to the more viscous types. And the more viscous types are injected into deeper layers. I won't go into this in extreme detail, but many of you, that the hyaluronic acid that's very viscous, very thick, is injected into deeper layers. And one can use the thinner hyaluronic acid for injection into more superficial areas. And you select that according to your patient's needs. What makes a hyaluronic acid preparation differ from another in viscosity has to do with the amount of cross-linking between the chains. Hyaluronic acid is composed of chains of molecules. You can make it thicker by cross-linking more of those chains together. So chemically, that's the basic difference between the thinner and the thicker types of injectable hyaluronic acid.
All right, interesting. Okay, let's go on to sunscreen types. I'm always surprised that people do not really understand sunscreen, yet we are told all the time, even not in this industry, wear your sunscreen, but people don't really understand sunscreens, and there's two main types, physical and chemical. So speak to this, Dr. DeHaven, and then also, Brian, I'll ask how you formulate with the two.
Okay. This topic, sunscreen types, is really interesting, and we could talk about this itself for an hour, which we won't. There are two basic types of sunscreens. There are the physical blockers, and there are the chemical sunscreens, or the chemical actives. And they are different types of molecules, and they work differently, although their purpose is the same, and that's to prevent the sun's energy from damaging the skin. The physical sunscreens, of which there are two, zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, work by physically blocking solar energy. They're also sometimes called physical blockers. They actually act as a shield, and they stand between the solar energy and the skin and reflect it back off. Now, their disadvantage is that they are white or opaque and very unattractive. The usual forms, and I'm going to let Brian talk to you about our formulating of these particular sunscreen actives. The chemical sunscreens are not physical blockers. They work by absorbing the sun's energy into themselves and transforming themselves into another chemical. That uses up the solar energy, but other molecules result. Some of those molecules are carcinogenic, and almost all of those molecules, especially in fair-skinned individuals, are irritating and can lead to a photosensitivity reaction. The advantage of chemical sunscreens, they're cheap. The advantage of physical sunscreens, they're inert. They don't interact with the skin. So we had some formulating issues to solve if we wanted to make these cosmetically elegant and still effective for our end users.
That's right. Just to take this from a formulating point of view, some of the chemical sunscreens also mitigate some different wavelengths. So when we wanted to create, and I'll talk about Extreme Protect 30 because that's one of the formulations I'm most proud of that I've ever made, because in my opinion, it was a significant advancement in dermatology where we proved that we protected the DNA itself. And so we wanted to get a broader spectrum covered. We wanted something more than just what the physical could give us, because if you think of a bunch of mirrors, and let's say you have some mirrors that are one size, and that's going to be the zinc, and some mirrors that are another side, and that's going to be the titanium. And if you put them all in an emulsion, which is what we call a cream, and then you put them on the skin, well, they're all at these different angles. They're all like reflecting light. It's not like this perfectly clear, even shield where they're projecting the sunlight, those photons, those free radicals, right back straight up again. In effect, they're bouncing all over, going bing, 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 and a lot of those actually can accelerate and get down into the skin. So if you really want good protection, you need to have some of the chemical blocker that can take care of those that get through. Well, we don't want the chemical exposed to the skin because it can, like Dr. DeHaven said, it can be irritating and it can actually create free radicals. So we also wanted to mitigate that damage. Well, how do you do that? Well, we took a chemical sunscreen, in our case octinoxate, and we encapsulated it in a liposome, which is kind of like a wax type of thing. So it does not ever come in contact with the skin. It absorbs the photons that get through, but it holds them there. It doesn't react. That's the beauty of it. Why was that important? Because we had other things in the sunscreen that we, including antioxidants and these extremozymes, we call them, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. And those ingredients, we needed to be able to get them into the skin and do their thing as well. Well, guess what? Chemicals use up antioxidants. So if you see like a chemical sunscreen and it's a spray bottle and it says it has whatever, avobenzone, whatever kind of chemical it has, and it says it has antioxidant with it, if it is not encapsulated, then it has destroyed the antioxidant already. This is where I'm telling you have to be really careful because the FDA doesn't really monitor this stuff, and but that's how it works. It recycles these antioxidants and uses them up, and that's the mechanism. So it becomes a label claim. So we use a combination of both, and then of course we didn't just use the standard clinical studies. We wanted to prove DNA protection, and we don't have a lot of time to go into that today. But let's say that the study on the DNA damage was so significant, I'm going to give you a little something to look forward to and entice you into looking into the study, that the study found that your skin was actually safer in sunlight with the EP30 applied as opposed to in the dark with nothing. So we even help to mitigate oxidative stress or free radical damage that's generated by our bodies. That's a big deal. So this was a big deal at the AAD when we launched that product. It's really fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Epigenetics. Dr. DeHaven, can you speak to this? Because I think this is probably a new concept to several of the people here today.
This is a new and very interesting concept. The term epigenetics literally means above the gene or over the gene. And epigenetics is the study of science that has to do with those factors that turn genes on or turn genes off. Now, you've all seen the double helix of DNA, and you know what that looks like. It's so famous because when it was discovered back in 1949 by Watson and Crick and described, it revolutionized science. So much so that for many, many years in science and medicine, we thought that DNA completely ran the show. Now, because of the science of epigenetics, we know that there are many things, many factors that talk to genes and can turn them off or on. And those are called epigenetic factors. Many of those, in fact, most of those are under our control. We used to think, for example, how long we lived was determined by our genetic makeup. Epigenetics has taught us that about 65% of our longevity relates to epigenetics, and only 35% of our longevity is determined by our genes. That's absolutely revolutionary. And we use these epigenetic factors to formulate new products.
Well, we thank you all so very much for coming today. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Brian, Alec, Dr. DeHaven.